Yo, what up? What up? Mic check Monday 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Shout out to everybody out there. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. We got people in here right now. Poets and rhymes already in here, of course. Um, Listen, man, we're just gonna get right to it. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. Get right to it. And shout out to Ron for holding me down last week. I know I called in real quick to discuss the J. Cole topic with him and Siobhan. And man, we're gonna talk a little bit about that today too. But you know what? Yes, Poets and Rhymes. It's Mike. I'm here. Yes, I'm here in the flesh. For sure. I feel like I'm lagging a little bit. Am I lagging a little bit? Let me make sure that, you know what? Let me make sure. Television. You already know how it is. Okay. I think we're good here. I think we are good here. Yes. Yes. Stabs and shot part two. Did not disappoint. We're gonna get to that too. Mad Max in the building already. He says, tell Jay Short. I said Yankees in 6. You know what, man? Even though I did want to see Cleveland pull it out, and shout out to Dana's family, my fiance's family out there in Cleveland and whatnot. I was kicking with them all week. We were watching the series actually in Tennessee, living the cabin life, having a really good time. But cheers to you guys out there in New York, man. Y'all deserve it. You had two teams that could have made it to the World Series, but hey, one out of the two got in there, even though between the two, I was kind of pulling for the Mets. I know it's sacrilegious being a Braves fan, but I got a long history with the Mets. Anyway, this bourbon right here, man, this is for a Tribe Called Quest, man. And y'all already know, anybody who has been a watcher of this show over the years, y'all know how hard I go for Tribe. Pause. Tribe, if we're being really honest here, my collective here, when we talk about groups, it's going to be Wu-Tang, Outkast, PE, Public Enemy, that is, and Tribe. And it's in no particular order, but I got to keep it all the way real, and I got to keep it all the way funky. I think Tribe is my favorite hip-hop group of all time, one of my favorite groups of all time, period. And so, I know, as Phife Dawg would infamously say on, or famously say, that's not infamous, famously say on award tour, I never let a statue tell me how nice I am. Yes, and I agree with that. Thumbs up in the chat. We're going to talk some Tribe real quick before we really get into some of the other stuff. I really agree with that, but when you have an institution like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I've been up there, a time or two, and I've checked out the hall once, and it's a beautiful hall, and it's a great shrine of some of the greatest music culturally of all time. It's a really great timeline. It's a great history lesson, and to have a group like a Tribe Called Quest representing music and not just hip hop in an institution like that is imperative. And the fact that the institution and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame were able to get this one right, as they have been actually, outside of Eminem and Missy, I've agreed with their inductees. I think some of the orders were off. I don't think the LL and Jay-Z should have been inducted at the same time. I don't think the Tupac and Biggie should have been inducted before LL Cool J. But I get it. They're all in there, and that's cool. But the Tribe Called Quest is one of those groups that they teeter along that line of being pioneers, which they are. And I'm going to get into that in a second. And they teeter that line between, kind of being a cult classic type group and / mainstream successful group. Because at the end of the day, when you think about it, somebody got 3-6 over Tribe. Listen, man, Paul H., I respect where you're coming from. I don't think there's anybody in this room right now or anybody that's on this live or going to be in this live that's more of a 3-6 fan than I am. I know their catalog extremely well. I'm very, very familiar with 3-6's catalog. But to say that they're greater than Tribe, I think is it's a bit off base. And I'll tell you why. A Tribe Called Quest's influence is deeper than just the beats and rhymes and life that they portrayed. it's a cultural movement within a cultural movement. We have subgenres. I'm trying to think, even before Tribe, did we really have many subgenres outside of people, just kind of taking on their different approach to hip hop? You had people who were more of the dancing MCs. You had the people who were more, socially political when you talk about PE, but the approach to how the records were made was similar. I think with De La and Tribe, we got, from a production standpoint, groups that took, they took chances with samples that other acts just were not going to take chances with. I mean, we were James Brown to death in the 80s, right? When it came to sampling and when it came to artists coming with their material. But when it came to De La and Tribe, and I'll give De La their credit and shout out to Prince Paul. I think Prince Paul is one of the more underrated producers ever, underappreciated producers ever in hip hop. And I think De La is going to get their day too. I think De La is going to end up getting in there. Them, the Roots, and Public Enemy's already in there. But I do think De La and the Roots are going to get in there. Wu-Tang as well. But what Tribe was able to do, they were kind of able to take some of the things that De La was doing, because they were all a collective. They were all, working within the same confines from a crew standpoint. And they were able to take some of those things and they were able to make really big records with them. They were able to make the Can I Kick It? They were able to make the Bonitas. And what Tribe represented was, they represented that, this regular everyday guy who just loves hip hop could be a hip hop artist. Q-Tip represented, to me, growing up, I was the Q-Tip, as like, he looked like one of the college kids out there. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that you see on a different world out here making music. You know what I mean? And then with the jazz influence and the subgenre that they were able to create from that standpoint, that created a lane for what we ended up seeing with the Roots, what we ended up seeing with, Common, what we ended up seeing with Black Star, Outkast, Pharrell, Kanye. Like, the trail that they blaze. We got Jay Short in the building. He says, with the super chat, he says, tell Mad Max, is North Cali over here? Is North Cali over here and we're up here? Counting our, what he says, counting our non-segregation ships. Okay, so we got the Dodgers and the Yankees in the World Series. This is going to turn into a Mad Max versus Jay Short. Who y'all got in this World Series? Y'all got the Dodgers or the Yankees? I ain't gonna front, man. Love New York, and I love our New York people. The Yankees got a lot of championships. Magic Johnson's over there with the Dodgers. I'm gonna have to root for the Dodgers. And the Braves in the National League. I got to root for a National League person. It is what it is. But I love the Yankees. Don't get it twisted. Anyway, but yes, Tribe represents something different. And I think that when we see a group like them and an institution like them be inducted into a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it lets you know that, you can do all these different types of things and dare to be different in hip hop and still get celebrated for it. Originality was always what the native tongue represented to me. Now, growing up, I grew up in the Outkast era. And so, the fact that Outkast was from here and they were making their best material in my formative years, I drew to them. Like, they were my group. They were my favorite group. Andre was my favorite MC. And they not only represented us, but from a hip hop lens, they represented hip hop and the possibilities when it comes to hip hop with me. And then as I got older, I was able to reach back into Tribe's catalog outside of just the singles and look at the actual albums and look at how these albums were put together. People's Instinctive, the Low End Theory, Midnight Marauders, understanding that Q-Tip was not only the front man in this group, but he was also the producer in this group and who produced all of these albums, which is so impressive at the age that he was doing these things. It's phenomenal. So I started to really dig deeper into Tribe's catalog, and I found myself, and I never thought that I would say this, I found myself being more of a fan of the music that Tribe was making than even Outkast, who actually brought me to Tribe. Now, I say this all the time on this program, if people follow this closely enough. Yes, as MCs, bar for bar, I would say Big Boy and Andre are better MCs than Phife and Q-Tip. And, you know, that could be argued too. But I do feel like when we talk about the music that was made, and it's not by a long shot, it's very, very, very close. I would feel more comfortable going 20 songs deep with Tribe's catalog versus damn near anybody. And that's just the truth. Their music, in my opinion, is aged better than pretty much anybody of their era. When I listen to the Low End Theory, that does not sound like an album that was made 33 years ago. I mean, it's phenomenal to even listen to these records. And I listened to Award Tour the other day on the road trip that I was coming back from, and I'm like, this record came out in 1993. It's phenomenal, man. Like, you listen to Award Tour now, like that shit blows your speakers away. It's so clear, the clarity. The first engineer in hip hop, you know, that I ended up knowing the name of is Bob Power because of the work that he did and the shout out that Q-Tip gave him. It was the whole vibe of what Tribe did. Jay Short with the super chat says, we really sleep on the Renaissance and Tribe's last album. I wouldn't say those are classics, but they're strong 4.5s. I think that the last Tribe album helped put them over the top for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm glad you said that. And I agree with that. And, you know, as it compares to Cass, and I hate to keep mentioning Cass, you know, but again, Billboard just ranked Cass as the greatest hip hop group of all time. So, you know, I think Cass is going to get in there too, as they should. But and there's no way in the world that Eminem should have gotten in there before Cass, Tribe, Snoop Dogg, Wu-Tang, and I'm just going to put that out there. Let's just be perfectly honest. But anyway, I do think that that last Tribe album, for me, put them over the top for my favorite group, Outkast. It's the fact that these guys have been broken up at that time for over 15 years, and they still were able to give the fans another album. They actually did what Cass didn't do. They gave us an album that they said was going to be their final album. Like, Tribe never left us hanging in that sense. The whole rollout for the Love Movement was the fact that this was going to be Tribe's last album. This was going to be it. And Q-Tip was going to do his solo thing, and Phife was going to do his solo thing. And so there was no press for, you know, Phife and Q-Tip where you would get in an interview situation and they'd be like, well, when's the next Tribe album? They could actually go out and do their own thing. And everybody wanted to see that reunion. And, you know, in the midst of that documentary that they did that Michael Rappaport directed, Beats, Rhymes, and Life, they were still out there performing together, even if they weren't on great terms. And I think that for the fans, people don't understand how difficult that has to be. You know, when people aren't seeing eye to eye and you do something for the fans, even though you're not really in a good place right now. And I got to give Tribe a lot of credit for that. You know, it's unfortunate. And I hate that Phife was not here to see this because we've seen this a couple of times when it comes to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. A lot of the groups that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame have a fallen member. You know, NWA, Eazy-E's not there. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, you know, Run DMC, you know, it unfortunately it seems to be a pattern when it comes to groups. And now, you know, we're seeing this with Tribe and Fife's not there. I wish Phife would have been able to see this, but you know, I'm glad Tribe got in there, and it's well deserved. I don't think that on the surface people understand the impact of this group, but you know what? I'm going to try to unpack it really quick. Because when Tribe came in the door with People's Instinctive, and if you listen to People's Instinctive, I don't want to say it's an offshoot from 3 Feet High and Rising, but it's not the Tribe sound that everyone got used to. Still produced totally by Q-Tip. Has Benita on it. It has El Segundo on it. It has Can I Kick It on it. It was the first album to actually get 5 mics in the Source magazine, which wasn't a huge magazine at that time. But that's how floored that the Source was with this album. This album is extremely different. You got records like the Luckalucian. When you hear the production on this album, you're like, where's this production coming from? And to think that not only the frontman of the group at that time, who was 19 years old, Q-Tip was around like 19 years old, not only rapped the majority of that album, because Phife only has about 4 verses on that album. It's pretty much a Q-Tip solo album, totally produced by him, and he's like 19 years old. So they don't have any OGs really, from a production standpoint. These kids pretty much just created this album on their own, which is a very, very special thing when you go back and listen to it as a time capsule. You talk about that young energy that, Tyler, the creator, brought through the door when he came in the door, and just that whole, I won't say wackiness that Pharrell brought when he was coming through the door. It's that first Tribe album, People's Instinctive, which is my personal favorite. I wouldn't say it's their best album. My personal favorite. It has this youthful energy of 1990 that you just can't really describe, and it's a beautiful thing. But I think that the transformation between that album and then the second album, that's one of the more impressive transformations I've ever seen. Now, it's not one of those jumps like, Blunted on Reality to the Score for the Fugees, or not Hell on Earth, Juvenile Hell and the infamous for Mobb Deep. It's not one of those jumps. Or Can I Borrow a Dollar to Resurrection for Common. It's one of those, you know what, we're just going to change up our whole sound. And I feel like, and Q-Tip could probably correct me if I'm wrong. I've never heard him really talk about this jump, but it feels like People's Instinctive was more of his vibe and what he was feeling at the time and how he wanted to approach music. Because again, he was doing the majority of the MCing on there, and he, did all the production on there. But when it came time for the Low End Theory, the Low End Theory sounds like, you know what, it's time to be a group. We want to get Phife more involved. We need to get Phife more involved to be the group that we can be. Now, Jarobi was highly involved in the first album, so I don't know what input Jarobi has on People's Instinctive, and for the most part, Jarobi's kind of out of the way when it comes to the Low End Theory, and this is when we see Tribe becoming, Q-Tip and Phife on the mic, and you're seeing the photos where it's Q-Tip, Phife, and Ali Shaheed, as opposed to all 4 of them like on the first one. I think that they really start to find their identity on the Low End Theory. And on the Low End Theory, thumbs up in the chat, everybody, giving a little history lesson before we get into this conversation. On the Low End Theory, what's the most impressive thing about that album to me, other than the fact that it's their best album, and it changed production for a very long time, Q-Tip adjusted his production style in a way where it made them a group now. Whereas you think about it, many of those songs on People's Instinctive, as dope as the beats are and as dope as the production is, I can't really hear Phife on it. And I don't know if Phife was just disengaged on the first album, or Phife was out doing something else, which I think he kind of said on the documentary, or Phife just wasn't feeling those beats to even jump on the first album in that way. But on that second album, you got records like Butter, which I think is one of the best assists that a producer has ever given an MC. For those who don't know Butter, go listen to Butter. It's a Phife solo song, Q-Tip on the hook, Q-Tip on the beat. It is incredible. I love that track. That beat is amazing. Phife did his thing on there. Phife had his coming out party on Bugging Out. They did We Got the Jazz. You got one of the greatest posse cuts ever when you talk about Scenario. You got, you know what I'm saying? You got Excursions as an intro. Like, it's insane. But what Q-Tip did, and what I think is one of the more impressive production jobs, he changed not only the whole color of what was going on with A Tribe Called Quest, he separated them from what, from De La Soul sound, if you will. And he also went out there and made A Tribe Called Quest a group. So not only did he create that level of chemistry between him and Fife on the mic, going back and forth and doing what they're doing, but he was actually able to cultivate a sound that was A Tribe Called Quest. Now this, the legacy of A Tribe Called Quest, in which you guys probably know of as A Tribe Called Quest, and its sound and that whole Dilla sound that was picked up later on. And shout out to Dilla, rest in peace to him. He's another person straight off of that tribe tree. That all starts with the low end theory. I remember listening to a broadcast that someone did. It might have been, who was it? I forgot what DJ it was, and it'll come to me in a second. And you guys probably know in the chat, but they just played all the samples that were that Q-Tip used on the low end theory. And when you sit here and listen to these records that Q-Tip actually utilized and turned into hip hop songs, you're like, how did you hear that? That's the genius of A Tribe Called Quest and Q-Tip and what they did. It's no disrespect to anybody, but when it comes to the sampling game, before Tribe and before De La, we had our go-to records in hip hop, right? It was James Brown, like, you know what I'm saying? It was you knew what a break beat was and what was going to be a break beat that worked for a hip hop record. You listen to these records that were sampled on the low end theory, you're like, dude, where did you hear a hip hop song in this? And I did notice, and I love Prince Paul. Y'all know I do. And Prince Paul is one of my personal favorites. On 3 Feet High and Rising, there are a lot of drum loops. And even on, De La Soul is Dead, there are a lot of drum loops that are very similar and that are repetitive and that are used over and over, but they also work. And so they always hit. And I think that his method, just from my ears, sounded like, I'm going to go take some obscure type samples and I'm gonna flip them and I'm gonna throw some drums on them that people are familiar with, and it's gonna be a hip hop record. When it comes to the low end theory, it's like, dude, where did you think that this was going to work as a hip hop record? And then you start thinking about like, oh yeah, the Lyrics to Go sample's insane. And we're going the Midnight Marauders on that. When you break down Lyrics to Go and that Minnie Riperton Come Inside My Love. Stand Inside? No, Stand Inside My Love, Smashing Pumpkins. Come Inside My Love. Inside My Love is the name of the song. Minnie Riperton. And dude, when you hear that this guy, and this is the great thing about Q-Tip, you're not getting a producer that's listening to the first 10 to 15 seconds of a song or first 20 seconds of a song that's getting the intro and you're taking that and you're flipping it. This dude is going 3, 4, 5 minutes into the record and taking obscure sections of that record and flipping it and turning it into a Lyrics to Go. And then you won't even know that this is coming from that until, somebody really points it out to you. Now, I don't know if this was part of the game where they were like, yo, maybe we could sneak this by. I don't think that's what it was. It was just being creative. And the thing that I love about Tip is he did everything first, sample-wise. Like a lot of the samples that he came with and a lot of the loops that he found, you would hear people utilizing these loops years and years after. The Big Papa sample that comes from the Osley Brothers, Between the Sheets, he did that first. He did that on the Bonita remix. He did. He did that on excuse me, Footprints. Think Twice, that was the sample that he used, and that was like 3-4 minutes into the record. And then after that, you have Lisa doing Let the Beat Hit Him. Like this guy and what he did sonically for Tribe and just for the game, like it can't even be quantified. I think that we look at Tribe as the makeup, and I know I did growing up. I look at it like, these guys are a duo. They rhyme back and forth. They rhyme over laid back beats. So it's easy to kind of say, the people that come from their tree is Outkast, Black Star, you know, the roots, whatever. It's deeper than that. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, I listen to jazz all the time. A Tribe Called Quest introduced me. I agree. You know, I thought jazz was old folks music until Tribe and Q-Tip and what, you know, those guys brought to the table. And you know, I'm not gonna exclude people like Diggable Planets. They did their part as well. Same thing with Pete Rock and CL Smooth. They did their part as well. But when we talk about this subgenre of blending jazz and hip hop, and Guru had his jazzmatazz and all of those things, the low end theory is that magnum opus of that. And it's phenomenal, man. Like, even when you listen to the sample from I'm skipping the Midnight Marauders because I could be on this all day, man. Thumbs up in the chat, man. I gotta give Tribe their flowers. And again, you know, we talk about when these institutions don't get it right, but they got this one right, and I'm happy that we have somebody who represents hip hop in this way and has such a rich history and rich influence that is getting celebrated. When you talk about the sample that is utilized on Electric Relaxation, again, we've gotten so used to actually hearing Electric Relaxation, you don't understand the genius that comes from that. Like, these records, that were like, nobody was sampling in this way. There were a lot of, you know, I don't want to say cheat samples, but yes, it was a lot of stuff that was like, you know what, that's pretty much the record. And no disrespect to Dr. Dre and what he did on the Chronic, because the Chronic is amazing. But G Thing, I mean, that's pretty much just that loop. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't really do too much chopping with it. Now, he did dig for it. But to me, if we're talking about from a creative standpoint and from a execution standpoint, and basically changing something that was nowhere near hip hop into a hip hop record, no one is competing with Q-Tip on that level. Because at least when we talk about other producers and, you know, Dr. Dre specifically, one of the big things that really help out the Chronic and G-Funk is the fact that there's some soul into these samples. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some actual soul that's already there. So all you're doing is you're bringing up that soul, throwing some more soul on top of it with the drums, and then you're throwing that hip hop aesthetic with the rhyming and all that on top of it. Yes, that's gonna go. But when you're taking some jazz records that aren't even remotely influenced, or hip hop isn't remotely influenced by, that is something else, man. Like, oh yeah. What Q-Tip does with the pause tapes, it's just, man. And for people who don't know that, you can look that up on YouTube, man. With this man, he could take a piece of vinyl and basically make a track right there with just one piece of vinyl, and basically scratching and going from one side to the other. It's like, I don't think that even as a Q-Tip fan in my lifetime, I had no idea how talented Q-Tip was until maybe about the past 10, 15 years. He's such a humble individual. Even when I was looking at his interview on Good Morning America, talking about being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he's just so humble about it all. And to me, I think that it's a catch-22. You know, and you know, and I agree with him on this sense. I mean, this is something I can identify with. A lot of the times when you're getting praise and adulation, and you know, people are telling you that you did this and you broke ground for this, this, and this, you don't really understand all of that because your head's always down and you're always working and you're thinking about the work first. And but see, with him, not only does he do that, I think he also is just he's just a very humble individual. And I think that he always wants to continuously get better from himself so he doesn't gas himself up too much either. But with that being said, I think a lot of the times we overlook how great he is as a producer in relation to his contemporaries, because he never really put his name on these albums like that. Like, Dr. Dre put his name on the Chronic. It's produced by Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre put his name on Doggy Style, produced by Dr. Dre. But when you look on the back of the low end theory, it says produced by Tribe Called Quest. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. LP says, LP saying some things that I've always thought over the years until I saw that documentary. I thought, or I assumed, that Ali Shaheed was the producer in Tribe. And then when they start talking about the records and start talking about the tracks, every origin story of the tracks came from Q-Tip. Every, him looking for the vinyl, him cutting up the vinyl, him putting the records together. It's like, okay, he did everything. And this is the thing with Ali. And it's no shade. It's just, it's just what it is. You want to give people credit for what they do. Ali will never go out there and say that he made something. But if somebody gives him credit for making something, he won't correct you either. And it's clear that Q-Tip made all of this stuff. And even when you start getting the introduction into Dilla coming into the fold, when they start talking about Dilla and how he looked up to Q-Tip as a producer and how his sound was similar to Q-Tip's and this and that, it's like, okay, Q-Tip made this stuff. And I don't know if Q-Tip was in a situation where he didn't feel confident by himself. He needed a crew or a collective around him because that's just what it was at the time. Because people in hip hop at that point, everybody had a crew. You know what I'm saying? Even the solo artists had a crew with them. The only person that you could say might have been straight up solo dolo was somebody like LL Cool J. So maybe he felt more comfortable with the collective being around and he wanted the tribe to be more of a unit. He said this on the documentary. He said, this is about the unit. It's never been about me. But when you think about the logo being created, he did that. The name of the group, he did that. The production, he did that. He was the front man of this. All right, Mad Max in the super chat says, Mad Max says, Tribe is great to play on a summer night. And yes, I play Tribe. He's a better producer than Dre. And Jay Short, remember, the Dodgers was black first. Better thank us. Jay Short with the super chat says, there's something lost when the Tribe Called Quest made their last album. There was they were avoiding hip hop. That was not filled even in this day. It was not filled even in this day. They were like a musical bridge between eras. They definitely were. When you think about, we always talk about this on this show, on the previous show, A2HA's Live. You got the 80s, and then you got 94. You got Illmatic, right? That time in between when Nas, we'll put Snoop in there too. I don't even want to say 80s and that. We'll go 80s and then late 93. Wu-Tang, Snoop, and then you start bringing in Biggie, Nas, Outkast. That's that new era. That's that 90s era that got ushered in. Tupac's in there too, but Tupac didn't start making his best material until around that time as well. They are that bridge. Them and Dr. Dre, I will say. Like, you got the Chronic in 92, but again, when you start talking about 90, 91, the people that held it down really was Tribe, De La, and Ice Cube. They were running the yard. So yes, they are a big bridge, and sonically they're a huge bridge because they opened up a lot of the possibilities. And then you start talking about Q-Tip and his influence even on Illmatic, Q-Tip and his influence on the Infamous with Mobb Deep, then we got a whole nother chamber that we're talking about with some hardcore New York hip hop. But yes, let me go back to the production thing. I think that Q-Tip being so humble kind of got him overlooked as a producer. I never knew how deep into production that he was until really, I don't want to say recently, but yeah, when I say recently, I mean the past 10, 15 years. I wasn't thinking that Q-Tip was one of the greatest hip hop producers ever in the 90s, and he actually was. And the only reason why I wasn't thinking that is because I didn't know. And, he didn't really credit himself in the way that he should have. I was confused when Ali Shaheed went to Lucy Pearl, and I was expecting a certain sound because I thought that he was the producer of Tribe. And we didn't get that sound really. And see, I don't really know exactly. They said Infamous who? I'm talking about Infamous, Mobb Deep's Infamous. Yeah, Q-Tip's even involved in that. Q-Tip, Havoc said that Q-Tip helped him program a lot of the drums, or teach him how to do a lot of programming that led to the production on the Infamous. So yeah, he's even involved in that. But yeah, and not to mention Busta Rhymes. I mean, Q-Tip gave Busta Rhymes the greatest introduction as a solo artist that we've seen possibly ever at that time. That was his version of the symphony, and he just led Busta Rhymes in. It's like, you know, don't violate, oh yeah, get violated, and then just basically roll out the red carpet for him to just go, as I combine all the juice from the mind, heal up, reel up, bring it back, come rewind. But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, that sound and the sonics. I don't really know exactly, and you know, and I'm just saying this as a fan. Even to this day, I couldn't really tell you what Ali Shaheed's sound is, because, you know, when we talk about him being in Tribe, he's paired up with Q-Tip, one of the greatest producers ever. And then when we talk about Lucy Pearl, I mean, you got Raphael Sadiq, who's an incredible writer and producer as well. I mean, I don't, so I don't know. And I would like to see, you know, what Ali's solo stuff is like. I haven't listened to Ali's solo album, but, you know, again, I'm sure being a part of such great collectives, you do have some incredible input as well. But yes, Tribe Called Quest, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's a beautiful thing. It's a great moment for hip hop. It's a great moment for everybody, and it should be celebrated. And groups like Tribe should be celebrated. And moving forward, I look forward to them continuously getting it right. I look forward to Snoop probably being in there. You know what? I think Wu-Tang should be in there next, to be honest. I would like to see Wu-Tang and Snoop get in there at the same time, really. I mean, they both came out a week apart, so I think it's only right. I would like to see Wu-Tang and Snoop. And I think De La Soul is going to get their props too, as they should. And, you know, rest in peace to Plug too. Rest in peace to Phife Dawg, man. And I do want to take this time to talk about some of Phife's shining moments too, since I've, you know, spoken of Q-Tip so glowingly. I think that the contrast between Phife's energy and his voice with Q-Tip's is what made this group so dynamic. And I will be honest, I think that Phife gives that balance that we always looked for in Outkast, where we knew that Big Boy was always going to keep 3000 grounded. I don't know if people really understand that, who didn't grow up in the South or grow up in that era when Outkast was doing it. But we thought that we liked where Dre was going with things, but we loved the fact that Big Boy was there to make sure that Dre didn't go too far. And we knew that it was going to stay hip hop because Big Boy was there. And I do think that on a surface level, Phife was somewhat that level of balance for Q-Tip as well. Sonically, we knew that Phife was gonna keep it really hip hop, and for the rap fan base, right? We knew that Phife was gonna come with a certain flavor. Phife was gonna come with these punchlines. And to me, Phife's shining moment, it's easy to say Bugging Out. He did his thing on Bugging Out, but I think I'm gonna go with the Jazz. Phife went crazy on that, man. Jay Short with the super chat says, after Outkast, I predict that the Roots will be the last hip hop group put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sad, no shade, the Roots, but we know why they're gonna get in. Well, glad you said that. I do think Outkast is gonna get in. It's one of those things, man. Yeah, 8 million stories. Phife went crazy too. Again, Butter is an incredible moment for Phife as well. What do y'all think Phife's best verse is? This is the thing with Cass. Cast means a lot of different things to a lot of people. And so when they get in there, and we don't see Cast perform all the time, so we don't really know which songs go. How do I say this? We don't know which songs really impact certain pockets. So what are they going to perform when they go up there? Is it going to be Bombs Over Baghdad cast? Is it going to be Rosa Parks cast? Is it going to be Elevators cast? Is it going to be Players Ball cast? Or is it going to be Miss Jackson cast? And so, like I said, we don't see them enough to even know what that looks like. It could be Hey Y'all cast. I don't know. So I think they're going to get in. I know they're going to get in. It'd just be interesting to see, what the display is like when they get in. I think that they're probably going to get ushered in by Q-Tip, Tribe Called Quest, and people like that who ushered them in. So I could see, Q-Tip doing the introductory speech for Outkast or L.A. Reid or Babyface. That could possibly happen as well. Probably not L.A. Reid, but Babyface. I could see that happening as well. But yes, I think Outkast will get in before the Roots. I think they should. I think Outkast should get in there before the Roots. I would love to see Nas get in. I don't know if that's going to happen yet. I don't know what else Nas needs to do. But I think that the right individuals to get in there next. And it's no disrespect to De La, because I think they should get in eventually. But I think the next inductees need to be Wu-Tang, Snoop, Nas, and Outkast in that order. And it'd be really interesting to see if Andre shows up for, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, seeing that he hadn't really shown up for anything else. Siobhan's in the building. What's up, brother?
Yo, what's good?
Oh, it was good, man. Cheers to A Tribe Called Quest and, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, man. How you doing this week?
I'm good. Yes, indeed, man. That's dope. That's dope for hip hop. Some other styles in there as well that I took notice to as well. Mary J.
Yes, of course.
In there that's kind of big. She's having an uptick in career, like another run, like one last run, in this entertainment business, from her acting to this tour she's gonna do in her last album. So it's dope for her.
Oh, this is gonna be her last album. She said that.
Yeah, she says the last album. I guess it's gonna be the last tour. But she for sure said it was gonna be the last album. I don't know what it's gonna look like for tour.
That's crazy. Yeah. Like you said, it is interesting to see that uptick, especially when what's happening to Puff right now. It's like, I never thought it would go down like that, and I'm still, I guess, kind of numb to the notion of what's going on with Puff. And again, he's somebody, if we're going to be honest, should be recognized by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame too.
Now we'll never see it, unfortunately.
No, that's unfortunate. He did the work.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. It's like, yeah, he deserves it as far as what he contributed to the business and executive producer, and just as far as being a mogul and what he was able to do in music. I feel like that the body of work, the projects, that deserves the right for him to be there.
He's a game changer in a sense where he married hip hop and R&B successfully. I mean, people had done it before him, but when you look at Mary, he had Mary singing over hip hop beats, and he had Biggie rapping over R&B tracks. It made it both work.
The crazy thing about Puff too is, like, you want to know how important he is, because this is a true testament how important Puff is to hip hop. If we were to take him out and erase all history of Puff, you erased key moments in hip hop.
Like, you erased damn near the whole 90s, especially from a radio standpoint, because even if it were records that he didn't produce directly, Touch Me, Tease Me is Puffy influence. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have anything to do with that record, but you know what I'm saying? Like, just that whole rap and R&B collaboration and having singers singing over classic hip hop breaks. That's Puff. He made that happen. And
Yeah.
again, before people get in here talking about Puff apologists or whatever, we're just calling it what it is. Can't erase what a person did.
Yeah, it's just facts, man. If you take them out that converse, if you take them out of that conversation, it's a big chunk in hip hop that we're missing. I mean, we don't get Biggie, we don't get, you know, that Bad Boy run and the acts that came from that before they branched off and did other things. So just speaking musically, there's it's like, damn, you know, who would
Even
have thought
when you say we don't get Biggie, right? That changes even how we receive Jay-Z or how the package that we get for Jay-Z. Because no disrespect to Jay, I love Jay, but I think anybody can say that, yeah, when Big passed, Jay kind of took on that lane and and ran with it. And I think Jay would even say that, like as far as like being able to make commercially viable records, making the street records, and kind of taking that, I don't want to say that jiggy lane and successfully doing it. He was the only person who could really pick up that lane successfully, I think. And I
yeah,
think Big was still
like
here. I think Jay would have tried to find another angle as opposed to living in Biggie's angle. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. And the reason why I could just like kind of say on that is because when Reasonable Doubt came out, Big was still alive. He's in the
Right.
video, you know.
But
So
he didn't. But he changed his sound. I'm talking about Volume 2, Jay, pretty much.
but I think around that time, like around that next step, the whole new sound of hip hop had changed. You
Yeah.
know, it's not just a J thing. Like the whole hip hop thing, it starts getting a little more grittier again. Because Puff was the only one that was kind of like the flashy. We're making the party tunes type stuff, but we were in the era that was still real hard in hip hop, and I feel like he played a lane that he was able to go do records with R&B artists or whatever and still keep it street. So if you want to say in that sense of following that lane, then yeah. He didn't put himself too much in the into that bubble of what you could be jammed into. Like there's a lot of influence of Bad Boy on Hard Knock Life because you have the Hitman on there, you have Stevie J produced tracks, but these are not tracks I think I would have seen Biggie spitting over.
It's interesting
Had a
that you
little
say
bounce
that.
still.
Volume 1's kind of like that album where you could tell that Jay was kind of trying to do some of the things that Biggie was doing because the I Know What Girls Like, and then you have a Streets Is Watching, and I think that was kind of like Life After Death kind of confused a lot of people, right? Like Biggie and Puff, they balanced that street. You could do a More Money, More Problems, and then have What's Beef on the same album. Like they were able to do that on a level that nobody was able to do at the time. And I think Jay was just up for the challenge to do that. But you're right. A lot of those beats that were on Volume 2, I might not have heard Biggie on, but it would be interesting to know in 98, 99, with all of the production changes that happened around that time, what Biggie would be rhyming over. What Timbaland beat from Biggie that he would actually be rhyming over, or the Neptunes beat. I would have loved to have heard Biggie rhyming over a Neptunes track.
Yeah, I mean that's the other interesting thing about what ifs of those legends like a Pop
Yeah.
or a Biggie is what would have been their next sound, what would have been the next wave, or what would they have continued from there. We were robbed of that because they left us with those great bodies of works where we got a preview of what it would have been, but it was just like, damn, they were so young and the music was just taking an uptick. And when that happened, but I think another thing that we're missing from that conversation as well, Mike, and who does deserve credit for holding it down after Biggie, was actually Mace. I don't think Mace
Yeah.
has enough credit for keeping the lights on that Bad Boy
Straight
because
up.
he kind of picked it up and just kind of that was Puff's number two. He saved Puff, you know.
Oh,
So
I agree. I agree 100%. Like Mace kept Bad Boy alive. And
yeah,
then when Mace, left and started preaching, Bad Boy, I think that was probably the darkest period of Bad Boy outside of what we're seeing right now. And then Black Rob came with Whoa and brought Bad Boy back again. I mean, look, Puffy's one of those guys that over time you've learned that, not count him out. but I think this is it. Unfortunately, and it happened so fast, and I guess it feels like it happened so fast because this is somebody who has been, I mean, musically a part of our lives for our whole life, you know? And yeah, and it just came crashing down. Now, when it comes to R. Kelly, I guess that's the only thing that people can kind of correlate this to. We saw signs and we saw, trials and heard things years and years before. I mean, we've heard the Puff things, but they were more in a joking way, never to the serious magnitude of this.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Bad Boy was a hit making machine. I mean, even when Big passed, it's like Big. I mean, Puff just kind of picked it up and kept it running. He threw Mason there. He got in there, and the R&B records was being pumped out. And we didn't even really get to see what that next level of Mace looked like too, because he got out. He bowed out at his peak. So
Yeah.
that's another thing. But he just with the R&B joints and Puffy will even he'll throw out some groups that'll give you like an album or a hit and something like that and disappear. But it's the way it was about the hits, man. It was a hit making machine over there, man. And like the way Puff kept it going through the adversity, some of it you could say he could take the blame on, because I felt like with the Lots leaving and those situations. But man, it's just so many people. He, Shine, just think about what would have happened if that, that situation in the club didn't happen. I mean, that roster, even when Puff came back and it was like that new Bad Boy stuff, when he had
Mark Curry and guys
Mark
like
Curry
that.
and all them, the Puff Daddy and the Family stuff like
Loon.
that.
I like Loon. Loon was kind of like a updated version of Mace, if you will. But I like Loon.
World.
Yeah. I think they had some dope records. I think they had some really dope records at that time. I Need a Girl Part 2, and all that stuff. But did you see Mary's speech? Because I didn't see it.
I actually didn't, man.
Okay, I want to know from the people out there. Did she thank Puff?
I don't
and
know.
would she have been wrong to do so?
Because I'm disappointed that I missed it, man, because I didn't even know it was on. That's one thing.
I didn't either. I mean, they don't really televise that like that, and it's hard to even find the clips and stuff because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame really keeps a lot of that stuff enclosed for themselves because they kind of, it's a time capsule for them, and they use that in the museum and stuff too, so they don't want it all over the place, and I get that.
Yeah.
Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, without Diddy, we don't get polished superstar Biggie. Big would have just been another round the way street dude in Brooklyn that destroys every cipher, and everyone knows he could spit. That's real. Like he said, man, y'all were grimy in the early 90s, far behind me. I mean, when you listen to Biggie, and this is the great thing about Puff, and I'm gonna, we're gonna give people credit where credit's due. When you listen to Biggie early on, you can hear the raw talent. I think the best example of that is like him on Dolly Baby. Where he's like, I love it when you call me Big Pop, the show stop, the round drop, Super Cat past the mat. I see you trembling. It's like you hear the talent. But like he said, Diddy took that talent and made a guy like that, and who's on the Real Love remix, be able to make a song like a Big Papa. Like, that's not some record that every dope New York, Brooklyn, whatever MC can just make.
Facts.
Like the records that Biggie made and how polished that One More Chance remix is, that's different level stuff. Like there's a lot of dope MCs to this day that can't make that record.
Yes, facts. It gives life to the career because when you look at Ready to Die, and it's like Ready to Die, it had the streets, it did, but like when we're talking about longevity, as an artist, him having that bag that he could jump into, like the One More Chance and the Juicies and stuff like that, that extends your career because now you got you collab worthy with people outside of hip hop, the R&B talents and stuff like that. Even his collabs on other R&B artists that are on Bad Boy, Faith Evans, 112, all of those joints that he was featured on, it extends his career and adds on another skill to his bag, man. It was crazy how we were robbed of such a talent.
The biggest difference between Ready to Die and Illmatic is the hits.
Yeah.
That's the differential in the record sales. That's the differential in the whole notion that Biggie brought New York back, you know, while the West Coast had everything locked. Excuse me, hold on. Because the West Coast was selling records because they had hits, they had radio records. And as great as Illmatic is, Illmatic didn't have a Juicy, Illmatic didn't have a Big Papa, you know, and it didn't have, I mean, once you extend the album, it didn't have a One More Chance remix, records that could hit the radio and sell the record in that way. And again, that's Puff. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, again, Nas is incredibly gifted, and Illmatic is, I don't want to say ahead of its time, but yes, it's like this 18, 19-year-old was on a whole different wave. And I know he was 20 when he actually put it out, but it's the biggest difference is the hits. And I heard Questlove say this one time. He was like, the 95 Source Awards changed everything when Nas had just made Illmatic. He got 5 mics in the Source for the album. I want to say Ready to Die got like 4.5, I believe. But he sat there and watched Ready to Die take home all the awards. And that changed everything. He knew next time around, and Steve Stout talks about this too, got to change up my sound. I got to make it If I Ruled the World in ways that he might not have done that before. That is the Puffy effect. If we really want to drill it down, that's the Puffy effect.
Yeah.
That changed everybody's careers. Like Puffy's, you know, approach to this thing changed the careers of even Nas and Jay.
I mean, when you really look at the Illmatic and Ready to Die stuff, I mean, some will say one changed the way the flows were, and then some changed the way the album approach were to writing. You know, the how albums were structured. You know, Illmatic is really like it's like you looking through the lens of this guy, this, you know, this picture in his block or his surroundings from outside his window, you know.
Incredible.
And he's big where you're placing your eyes into the hustler, you know, the street dude, you know, and you get those two different approaches within that music, and you could tell the different perspectives. And I think both is important, not only in hip hop, but for just New York and what's to come after that as well.
Yeah, very, very necessary. But yes, congratulations to Mary J. Blige. And, you know, again, as far as us being a hip hop show, you know, we could go on and on about Mary's accolades and her incredible career in R&B, but we know her as the queen of hip hop R&B soul, right?
Yes,
she's
sir.
The queen of what is the title? It's the queen of hip hop soul, I think it is. Yes, and sir. You know, we can't speak to that without speaking about the importance of Diddy. So, you know, it just is what it is.
Yes, facts.
Well, since we're talking about awards, man, did you see that BET Hip Hop Awards?
Yeah, man. It was everything what I expected it to be.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
I mean, here's the thing. BET has lost the pulse of the culture a long time ago. One of the biggest bulk reasons of it is you took music programming off it. What kind of kept things going, in addition to like your reality stuff that came later on, like the College Hills and stuff of that. It was or Comic View. It was mainly your music programming, your 106 and Park, Rapsody, Hits from the Street, Cedar's World. You know, these are the things. They even had a countdown show on the weekend, you know, and I
like that show. I forgot the name of that show where they would bring artists in and they would do their top 25 videos.
Weekend, I used to watch them, you know, and I used to come home and watch that lineup. And even though every countdown show was doing the same videos, some of them would slip a little bit other more rap stuff in there, like Rapsody, whatever, you know.
Well, but now that you say that, you know what my favorite BET video show was?
What was it?
Uncut. And it's not really for the reason why most people would think. You finally got to see something different. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to see rappers out of Alaska. You got to see, you know what I'm saying, the low budget videos. What was it? What that thing smell like? What was his name?
White Girls.
or the bongos, Versace Verasutos. Like, you got to see some different stuff. BET Uncut was legendary.
Yes,
Go
fact.
ahead. I'm sorry.
And no, while we're on that, I would want to say now it makes it to where I see these videos that are like more explicit. I'll be like, man, it shows you the evolution of things because we had to wait to 3 a.m. to see these type of videos. And now you can just get on YouTube, you see these videos like it's nothing, like it's nothing now, bro. Like,
oh, the busy bone. Ain't nothing like money in a Ziploc bag. Yeah.
Yeah. Classic. Classic. You know what I'm saying? But now it just shows you where we are as a culture. Like, we really had to wait up to 3 a.m. to see that, dog. And like now these are regular. That's natural now. That's regular video content now. It's kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, to speak to that, I think even when you talk about the video shows and these networks not being able to have music videos in prime time, a big part of that is just how fast the internet is, how, accessible you have music videos on your phone. Like you said, we had to sit there and wait till 3 a.m. to see Tip Drill. Now, if we had cell phones that could just pull up Tip Drill, we're not staying up to 3 a.m. anymore to watch these things. And again, I know that's a big example, but that's just a microcosm of what these networks had to deal with, YouTube becoming YouTube and mobile devices becoming mobile devices. It's like, okay, well, how do I keep a 106 in Park interesting when we're showing the same 10 videos over and over? People could see these videos whenever they want to now. What's going to park people in front of their televisions to watch these things? So they say, you know what? We're just going to show reruns of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, we got, you took programming off and you didn't replace it with much. Like how you were saying, we're getting reruns of Fresh Prince. We was getting Baby Boy every day. We was, they try to fit some original programming there, like Hell Date or College Hill, or they picked up The Game from the CW, and I was running The Game on BET, that sitcom. But ultimately, when they veered away from music, it kind of changed the scope of what BET was. So like they were just picking up the reruns of shows that existed in the 90s, and it's playing the same movies over and over, and it started to lose credibility of what Black television is. So it's funny because they're all Viacom, CMT, MTV, BET, VH1, right? And I think Nickelodeon in there or whatnot. But it's crazy how BET diminished so bad as far as the programming, but MTV just kind of kept it going. Like, because they already was kind of ushering other programming in with it just being solely music, because they already had the Real World, and they had the Real World challenges, and they had all these other little shows or whatever that they did. And I feel like they were able to successfully maneuver away from the music and still have successful award shows that kind of went hand in hand with what pop culture was. And I feel like with BET growing away from music, the only thing that kept us watching BET was the awards and how much they put into it. When they stopped putting into the awards, it just kind of imploded, and like the production went down. Your hosts, the quality of hosts went down for your hip hop, for your BET awards. Some artists stopped coming, and that was a big one of the biggest hits. The performances, usually, one thing about the hip hop awards is not like hip hop awards started off being great and it was just so major. We watched the hip hop awards, and the BET awards was great. But the hip hop awards was like, yeah, it's flagship. It has potential. It could be great. But the reason why we watched the hip hop awards was the ciphers.
Exactly.
Then we, like, in just a matter of those short years, we seen the quality of the cipher go downhill. So where it started to become a joke, and then now it's no longer there. So what was your selling point for us on the BET hip hop awards? Once you take away the ciphers away, and then the performances are shit, what do we have?
Exactly. And all right. So yeah, somebody in the chat said this, and I agree with this. MTV's in bad shape too. But MTV's award show, I remember watching this last month. I was really impressed with the time and the effort and the money that was put into these sets. I thought that the performances were pretty awesome, to be honest. Now, as far as them guiding the culture in the way that they used to in TRL and all that stuff existed, no, that's not happening. I was always of the mindset, though, where I felt like Viacom acquired BET to run it down and not to build it up. And that's how it feels, culturally, because like you said, they're not sitting here running, reruns of Friends on MTV. Fresh Prince, that's Will, that's different. But, a lot of these things that they got on BET that are running 24/7 have zero to do with music or zero to do with culture per se. And I think that even if you're not sitting here playing music videos, 24/7 like you used to, there's still ways to be culturally important and still be able to cover what's going on in hip hop and be relevant in hip hop without having to play a music video. One of my favorite parts about, Rapsody back in the days when Joe Claire and Big Les would go out into these artist environments. Like I remember Joe Claire came out and interviewed Goody Mob out Greenbrier Mall and all of these things. Like you could do those things without showing a music video, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the stuff that goes on YouTube and on different podcasts or whatever, of like even with Mav Hoffa and the way that they are in the barbershop and having these conversations, who's to say that can't be a BET show? You know what I'm saying? Like there are different ways to do it without having to just say, yo, I can't play music videos, so I'm out the music game. Now, again, if you're going to do that, having an awards show, it seems really off base, because now what are we basing this on? At least when we used to watch BET when music was involved, you could quantify who should win an award. You know what I'm saying? Now, what are we really basing this on at this point? And like you say, artists showing up. You said it ain't a big deal, but I do think it's a big deal. They nominate Kendrick Lamar for 11 awards. He wins 8 of them, and he doesn't even show up to the show. Now, listen, I'm not giving any precursors of anything or whatever. I've never ran an award show, whatever, but it just seems disrespectful if you give somebody that much consideration and they give you none. I'm not giving you 8 awards if you ain't coming to the show. I'm sorry, you might get 1 or 2. I'm not get, you know what I'm saying? Like, am I wrong for that? Like, well, you got people who's sitting in the audience who actually took the time to come to the show who might not win anything.
Check this out though, Mike. We got to look at their status in hip hop as well, because it's easy to point out Kendrick and him not showing up because, number one, how many awards he was nominated for, and 2, because he's the highlight of hip hop right now. But it's been an ongoing thing for years that artists, big name artists, have been nominated are not showing up to the award shows. And just because it was Kendrick and he's nominated for this amount of awards this year, that doesn't deviate from the fact that this has been a long ongoing thing with other major artists for a long time. When we first started
awards, though, come on,
no, and the reason, let me finish, Mike. And the reason,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, the reason why I say that is because in the beginning of the hip hop awards, of the BET awards, BET meant something to the culture, because the BET artists still needed BET. You know what I'm saying? Like, they still needed BET. They were a highlight in the culture. They were playing their videos. They were helping them sell those albums. What is BET doing for artists now? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the draw for a big name artist that's already established well beyond that to come back to the BET Awards? That's a low level production in the shell of what it used to be, as opposed to a young up and coming artists that need that screen times, that notoriety, and that stuff, those highlights to kind of up their career. Like,
well, and that's a fair point. That's a fair point. But if you feel that way about my award show, I'm not going to have you winning 8 of them. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? And I agree with you. And I think that moment, on the flip side, that moment should really be reserved to the artists that, like you said, it can help. Like, because from what you're saying, sounds like Kendrick's just too big for the BET Awards, right?
Well, no, what I'm saying is it's been a consistent thing that bigger artists that has been nominated for the BET Awards haven't been showing. When is the last time the awards that Drake won? When's the last time you seen Drake at the BET at the BET Awards?
Well, I'm not just going to single out Kendrick. I think that anybody who feels that, like you said, BET is just not on their schedule to be able to show up for, then yeah, you're just not going to get nominated. I mean, you know what I mean? It's what it is.
Beyonce and Jay-Z showing up to this award show to them not coming anymore. Let's not forget about the highlight of Monique getting up on that stage and dancing.
Well, these are two different award shows. You got the BET Awards and the BET Hip Hop Awards.
But I'm just saying, they both suck now. That's what I'm saying. Like they both
has shown up to the BET Awards recently, though, right? Just not the BET Hip Hop Awards.
Yeah, but the Hip Hop Awards, what I'm saying is the quality of both has sucked. Now, the Hip Hop Awards always started off shaky, and the thing that saved them was the ciphers, because that's back when they had Cat Williams as the host or whatnot. And that's another thing. I love Fat Joe. I just don't think he's a good host for the show. I'm just going to be honest. That's number one.
Fat Joe shouldn't be hosting this show year after year after year after year. Like, I mean, give Fat Joe 1 year to host it maybe, and let's move on to something else. I agree with you on that. I don't see why they got Fat Joe hosting. Like, he's basically the host now. Yeah, like, you're telling me in this big nation, Fat Joe's the only person that can host the BET Hip Hop Awards?
And so I'm looking at the BET, like I feel it's a prestige thing, and I feel like BET is not representing the culture. That's number one. The production has diminished. I mean, they had the BET Hip Hop Awards in Dre's nightclub in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? Like the stage, you seen the size of the stage and what these artists are making do. Like, come on, bro. Like,
they don't even need to have it. Yeah.
It's like the hip hop, and then you took away what made the Hip Hop Awards that difference between the BET Awards, that the ciphers. You take that away, what are people really watching for? Because most of these artists are not showing up. Even your performances lack this year. How many current artists that we have? We're talking about Kendrick not showing up. How many current artists blessed that stage? We had, think about the bulk of those performances. There were artists that already been established. 2 Chainz, Juicy J and E40. Like, come on, man. We got Big Boogie, we got Glow, and I think like one more current artist. We didn't have no current artists blessing that stage. What is that?
Who is that on, right? Thumbs up in the chat. We're gonna have some real talk today. Mad Max to the super chat says, enough of the BET talk. That's dead. Tell Nas to make another awards show, and I'll chip in. Grandmaster Awards, BET Awards is more ghetto than the projects I grew up in. Mad Max showing some heat to BET. I mean, is it one of those things where, all right, did they release any reason of why the ciphers were not televised? Because I was talking to some MCs who were working on the ciphers, and I was sitting there waiting for them to happen, and they didn't happen.
Yep. And so they, first of all, they start getting trashed. And then I feel like they started, certain artists wouldn't go on the ciphers no more. You start having a couple of people that repeat it. And then I think like they start losing themes. Once, I remember one time they had a woman MC cipher, they had a Young Money cipher, they had the TDE cipher, they had the Eminem cipher, with the Shady 2.0 joint. They had the throwback ciphers when they had Rev Run on there, and then they had the rappers with their sons, they had that. And it was just like, I think they left. First of all, they stopped the creativity of their themes. I think these artists stopped wanting to do it, and the ones that were doing it, it was trash. I'm just gonna be honest. And then they start making a mockery out of it. You start having a Real Husbands of Hollywood cipher, the comedian cipher, and all that stuff. It's just like, it went downhill. I just don't know. That was the highlight.
You got people who, this could possibly be their platform to, gain new fans and become a star in their own right and get their career going. And you make a mockery of it by doing the Real Husbands of Hollywood cipher. Like, it's a bad idea. Mad Max of the super chat says they should let RZA run the show. He'd make it hip hop.
Hey, you want to know something else about this too? Is like, since the ciphers, when did we ever care about who showed up for an award at the BET Hip Hop Awards?
You're right.
We never
But
talked
again,
about
I
an award
think,
ever.
see, my thing is though, and I agree with you, Siobhan. I agree with that. But see, what BET, in my opinion, has messed up at, we got a BET Hip Hop Awards and a BET Awards. You got to differentiate this somehow. Should Kendrick maybe get nominated for 11 BET Awards? Sure. But for whatever reason, you know he's not going to show up to this BET Hip Hop Awards. So you need to reserve that show for the people that this hip hop shit is important to. If he's too mainstream for it, and I'm not, how do I say this? It's kind of like the Source Awards back in the day. We knew that the Source Awards was going to cater to the people that were in that room. There was nobody who was winning awards at that Source. I mean, even Death Row was out there in New York in that room at the Source Awards.
But we gotta
say
say,
reserve that award show for the people that are in that room. If Kendrick's not going to be that in that room, but he's going to be in the the BET Awards room, give him all those nominations over there, because I'm sure there are a lot of hip hop artists who put together some dope work that would have loved to have been in that room if they got a nomination.
And you know, Mike, you got a point, but we're comparing apples to oranges when you make the point of the Source Awards, because the Source Awards meant something to the culture. You know,
right.
if you get a low rating on that mic system, your career could be over. What power does the BET Awards or the Hip Hop Awards hold for artists now?
You're
if
right.
An artist is for running and they lose and they don't get it, or they're not acknowledged the BET Awards, that don't stop their career. Having a low rating on that mic system in the early Source Awards, that could break your career, bro.
Because a lot of those guys were, you know, they weren't already there. They had budding careers. And I think that that's the similarity, right? Where BET, they need to cater to the artist that is not on TV all the time or doesn't have that kind of reach like that. And, you know what I'm saying? And cater to them as opposed to the artist whose reach is bigger than the awards show. Hip hop is in a very interesting place. I never thought that we'd be in a place where you have artists who are bigger than the institutions. And I mean, obviously, the BET Hip Hop Awards is a younger institution, but there was a time period where Kendrick needed the BET Hip Hop Awards as a platform. He needed it for that cipher that he did. When he did that TDE cipher, that was a big deal for him. He was there, he showed up, he spit his bars, now he's too big for it. You know what I mean? And so, and I'm not saying that in disrespect to him. I'm just saying that somehow these institutions can't keep up with how big the artists before them are getting. Yeah, and that's a problem. And they need to reset. If you're getting to a point where, nigga, all you doing is Super Bowl, you know what I'm saying, you turning down Coachella, you ain't coming to our award show, you're definitely not going to get 11 nominations here. You know, congratulations to you, but those nominations are going to be reserved for GloRilla or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that it still doesn't hurt Kendrick in that sense when the award show, the institution that hosts his award shows, has no pulse on the culture. It doesn't affect our culture at all. Like they don't even have a good representation of what the culture was. When I watched the last Hip Hop Awards, for me being a black man, I cringed at watching the Hip Hop Awards with how bad it tried to pander to what they think our black society is. I'm like, dog, you niggas are so clueless, bro. Like this is not how we talk. This is not like when I seen that little skit when it was like Taraji P. Henson and Kamala Harris talking and all. I was like, dog, we don't talk like that.
Exactly.
Young, I have a sister that's 21. That's not how they talk, bro. Like they don't even know what the culture is right now. So it seems like they're trying to pander and like, where's the young people in the rooms? You know,
they're not in the rooms. I mean, and people are saying that, you know, I'm playing politics and, you know, the BET Awards is whack. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about a respect thing. If I get nominated for any award that many times, especially a televised award, damn, I'm gonna at least send you in a video. I'm gonna at least acknowledge you or something, especially if this is a institution or a platform that I've utilized to get to where I'm at. You remember back in the day where if somebody big won an award and, you know what I'm saying, they couldn't be there, they would satellite in from tour or something like that. Like, damn, from an appreciation level, at least do that. It ain't like it's some Jimbo Jones award that started after you and is trying to, you know what I'm saying, give you an award for clout. You've actually used this platform before. So some level of appreciation. I mean, it's just the right thing. I don't see how people don't feel like I don't see how people feel like just because the awards show has gone down clearly. And really, in my personal opinion, it doesn't even need to exist right now. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that this is a platform that when you needed it, you utilized it. When it could help you, you utilized it.
Because it meant something.
It meant something.
And it represented our current culture. They're not. BET is basically Tyler Perry land right now.
But
all throughout
you don't think they're trying to get that credibility back by nominating him that many times because he means something, right? So for them to get that credibility back and try to, you know, nominate somebody who did have a huge year, because it's the right thing to do on their end, they have to nominate him because he's having a big year. They got to acknowledge that. Yeah. So they're not that off base.
Well, the order to get the credibility back is you have to have it be Black entertainment television again, you know, and that comes in all facets. But
now I would love for him to speak to that. Now, if that's where he stands on that, yeah, if you feel like, you know what, I'm not going to go out there and support the BET Hip Hop Awards since the BET is Black owned, I think that's a powerful statement. But again,
I mean, he doesn't have to do that though, man. Mike, he doesn't owe nobody nothing by not showing up to the BET Awards, bro.
Man, I think if somebody nominates you for 11 awards, you owe them something. It's a platform that you've used.
That I feel it only has the level of importance to who values it of that importance and whatever. Like it's not like he never did the BET Hip Hop Awards or the
he
BET
used it when it was beneficial for him though.
Everybody used them when it was beneficial because it meant something to the culture. They don't mean nothing to the culture no more.
Well, my argument right now is, you know what? You used them when you needed them. Now they need you. You gonna do anything for them?
Yeah, when you represent us. You know what I'm saying? Like, where's your importance?
He nominated him 11 times. How do they not represent us?
So many award shows outside of BET that there's only so many that has prestige. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have the NAACP awards. You know, why don't we have Black actors that whine about not winning like these prestigious awards are associated with the bigger industry stuff, but they don't whine off like NAACP awards? Why is not the value in that? Or why is it that certain artists, they won't value and they don't whine off not winning the BET awards, but they may whine about not getting the Grammy? You know, there's prestige levels to this shit, Mike. Like a Grammy, that Grammy takes you up to another bracket of what your features is going to look like, even being nominated. That does something for your career. It doesn't do nothing for your career if you win a BET award, bro.
Again, man, it's like the value is in the artist. And if people didn't show up to the Grammys will start to lose its cachet as well. It's all about how you value it. Leonard Washington says, I wouldn't have that same energy for Drake. I would. If he got nominated 11 times and won 8, like that's crazy for anybody to win 8 awards at a show they don't even show up to. Mad Max in the super chat says, ain't the Source Awards do that to Nas when he ain't performed at the Source Awards? And Huey Freeman told us about BET on the Boondocks. You're right. The Source Awards did do that to Nas, and they were wrong. They were wrong.
And you know,
I mean, it is what it is. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, big artists will only come back home to BET after they get in trouble and get canceled by mainstream platforms. That's when you suddenly see Jonathan Majors at Hollywood Unlocked Awards. That is true. Yeah. That is true, unfortunately. But I know I shouldn't say anything, you know, disagreeable with Kendrick here. Nobody's gonna.
But like, I'm just gonna keep it real, man. They have to establish the importance of it now and have it similar with the culture. And honestly, there's so many factors that play into this as far as ownership, representation, where hip hop is at this time, the value of what hip hop at this time placing into. I don't even think these younger rappers care about BET or care about the program of the BET.
Why should they?
What a BET exactly. So why would somebody who's been there, done that, and seen it crash and burn now feel like it still has that importance. Yeah, you could try to revive it, you could try to put life back into it, but that's only if it, what is it doing for us? You feel me? Like the Grammys, like it or not, it hasn't represented the culture well at all. And there's still a level of prestige in it that people are still up in arms when they don't win, because it does something to the next level in their career. It's something
Well,
that says,
the Grammys are different, and not to interrupt you, because the Grammys are intertwined with the music industry itself. Like the Grammys is basically the major record labels and their staff, right? So, like you said, winning those awards, it makes you more money. You're able to ask for more when you're touring. You're able to raise your price, if you will. Like Fat Joe would say, yesterday's price is not today's price. And that's what the Grammys is able to legitimately do for an artist. And you're right. You're playing politics. You're playing that game because you damn near have to. And you better believe that your label and your agents, they're going to make sure that your ass ain't touring when the Grammys is on. You know what I'm saying? You free. You know what I'm saying? Like your schedule is cleared up for this. And I think that's another thing too with the BET Awards, BET Hip Hop Awards. They have their awards show, or at least the BET Awards, they have it dead in the middle of summer. Like, niggas, it's touring. Like, what are you doing? The Grammys is like, you know what I'm saying, during that dead season where people aren't touring, but they're going to make sure the schedule's free anyway. You're right. But I think that when we talk about, well, let me say this first. I don't think there should even be a BET Hip Hop Awards. I'm just being, I mean, if people ain't going to show up and you got, somebody who should get nominations, that got 11 nominations and they're not going to show up, it's like, why do we have this? But I do think if we took away the BET Hip Hop Awards, then I think people would be crying foul for that too.
Yeah, I mean, but we also had Meg that got nominated for all those awards and didn't win anything.
Crazy.
So
should we go down the line real quick? I want to go through the winners real quick, and you tell me what you're thinking. Best hip hop video, Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us. Best collaboration, Metro Boomin, Future, Kendrick Lamar, Like That. Winner. All right. We got best duo or group, Future and Metro. Best live performer, Missy Elliott. Interesting.
Yeah.
Lyricist of the year, Kendrick Lamar. Video director of the year, Dave Free and Kendrick Lamar. Okay. Song of the year, Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us. Album of the year, Nicki Minaj, Pink Friday 2. Hip Hop Artist of the Year, Kendrick Lamar. Best Breakthrough Hip Hop Artist, Sexy Red. Hustler of the Year, 50 Cent. Sweet 16 Best Featured Verse, Kendrick Lamar, Like That. Impact Track, Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us. Best International Flow, Gets. DJ of the Year, The Alchemist. Producer of the Year, The Alchemist. Hip Hop Platform, Club Shay Shay. Didn't realize that was a hip hop platform. And those were the BET Awards, BET Hip Hop Awards.
So first of all, those awards just, it's always going to be based on who has the most popular year. We know what that's going to happen. But think about, like,
that's crazy though. Megan got 12 nominations.
But some of them you can't argue against. Biggest impact, hell yeah, we're going to say Kendrick. Some of these we can't really argue with based on what the type of year we had in hip hop. Out of everybody who released albums mainstream this year, it was majority women.
Yeah,
that's number one. It was majority women. Meg dropped this year, Lotto dropped this year, Sexy Red dropped, JT dropped, and then we just had Glow that just dropped. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like we had more women drop albums this year than these males. So when you think about these categories, who wins these over Kendrick other than possibly a Drake? But let's talk about what was put out this year to make that, who would you see winning these over Kendrick?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. They took away, and I don't know if this is feminism at work or whatever, but they took away best female artist and best male artist, I see. And Megan definitely would have won that. I mean, she should have, based on what they got here. And so they just had Artist of the Year. Um, you know, I guess Megan couldn't have won any of that. Let me see what all Megan was nominated for, because she was nominated for 12.
She didn't win anything. I think that's more disrespectful than this Kendrick thing.
That is
You
disrespectful.
got me here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, all right. So best live performer, and they had 9 nominees, bro. They had Burna Boy, Drake, Megan Thee Stallion, Busta Rhymes, GloRilla, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Kendrick Lamar, and Travis Scott. Well, I'm of the mindset that of all of these people, Travis Scott has to win that.
Yes,
but he got
hands down. Yes,
Travis Scott's the best live performer of the past 10 years.
I just want to know, what is the standard for how they judge that? Are they going based off tour gross? Because if that's the case, Drake should have won that award. Are they going off your actual showmanship on stage? Then yeah, cool. I can see Travis Scott being in that conversation, if not winning that. But what is the criteria for that award?
I mean, I love Missy Elliott.
She's been on tour.
She shouldn't have won that one.
She's been on tour, so
for the first time ever. It's her first tour ever. Like, when you talk about live performances, man, like, that's Travis. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I don't, like you said, to your point, they India I read her, man, because I don't really see what song she should have won for.
It should make no
video, no.
It makes no sense. It's kind of damn near disrespectful a little bit, and I can defend Megan in a sense, because before Glow just dropped this album, she had the highest selling hip hop female record this year.
Yeah,
and she doesn't even want a BET award, hip hop award.
Yeah.
Like,
on the flip side, you're right, man. It's like, if you know that I'm gonna be in these categories like this, man, and I ain't gonna win nothing, don't even nominate me this many times. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of embarrassing and disrespectful. Like, but again, people are gonna say I'm playing politics, but it is politics, man. Like, when you got somebody who was nominated 11 times and wins 8, and then you got somebody nominated 12 times and wins 0, it just seems weird.
Yeah, and then, like I said, you couldn't even get the young performers to show up to do your show like that, man.
This is why.
This you know, all right, you're the ones that are bigger above this in status wise as artists don't show up, but at least where's your young artists? I see they had Big Boogie, they brought Glow out. You had oh boy, I forgot. He had that left right song, whatever. I forgot what the name of Soak City. That was the name. I think I would like to say I think he performed, but other than that, it was your already older established artists. We didn't even get the young. Like, hip hop is a young man sport, and we don't even see the young generation being represented at the BET Hip Hop Awards. I mean, that was more telling to me anything. Like, usually, if you were to look at this, you should be able to see where hip hop is at this time for us. I didn't see that. That wasn't a representation of where hip hop is right now. Yeah. Even if hip hop is in a bad space right now, where are the artists that you would pick to represent like what's going on in the culture right now is hip hop? I didn't see that there.
The mainstream is in a bad space, and I mean, BET, I think, and this is just my opinion, I think that they need to kind of, I know they can't go all the way this way, but they need to cater to the Shay Noirs of the world, the Benny the Butchers of the world, the Freddie Gibbs, at least mix that up. You know what I'm saying? Like, get the people who are out here that are hungry and making records and like making some of their best material right now in the mix with some of the people that are on radio. And that's where the ciphers were dope, right? Because they used that kind of energy with the ciphers because they couldn't fake the ciphers too much. You had to have the Shaheed Princes of the world and the ciphers and stuff because they were just that good, and it was good television for them. But I think at this point, for them to move forward and have good television, or just going to have to axe the award show altogether, they're going to have to get hungry, talented artists involved and get them on a stage that they've never been on before. Because like you said, BET can't help some of these other people who have just surpassed all of that, and they've been on these stages. They're bigger than that now, whether they want to, recognize that or not. And honestly, man, yeah, you
But
can't.
that calls for a bigger conversation about hip hop, Mike. Because
Yeah.
let me just veer away from BET, right?
Okay.
When we're talking about this underground rap, and we're talking about mainstream, the mainstream is always who the people deem as popular, who the
Right.
people are saying, what the young folks are saying is just there. There's a reason why these certain rappers have always been placed in that little box that they're in versus mainstream. When we look at a Benny the Butcher, yeah, we know he could out rap a lot of rappers, but is he a star?
Mm.
Can we box him up and put him out? Let's think about it. Is Benny the Butcher up there in age too? Like, that's another thing. He's not a young budding star, bro. And that's
Right.
not taken away from his ability of spitting. But they're like, when we talk about this underground, they're underground for a reason. It's not mainly just due to the product. You know what I'm saying? This is not due to the if the music sounds good or not. It has everything to do with what's gonna fly to the masses. Are they a star? Do these people has the face for marketing? When I look at Meg Thee Stallion, right? There's a million other female rappers, right? But Meg, she's on Pepsi commercials. I just seen a commercial with her on Venom. You know, I've seen her in She-Hulk. I've seen her just hold down commercials and be placed in certain things. There's a certain star power that comes with certain people. Some people just got it. And the quality of music may not match how much of a star it is, but there's like, when I look back at the 90s, I remember watching shows like Moesha or the Parkers and stuff like that. And you know, these black sitcoms or whatever, and you see who's the hottest artist on there. I remember the Wayans brothers had Busta Rhymes on there, or like these shows always had who was hot at the time on there. Like, those were stars in the light of that. What is our stars of today? What do you see of today? And those underground rappers are not necessarily those stars. So I
I
think
do think a lot of that has to do with representation too, and you're right. There is a level of star power when certain people get on the screen, they just light things up. But I think that where BET is right now, they're not going to be able to get the biggest stars. So what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to deal with the stars that they're able to get, and they're going to have to, for a foundation and for some substance, I think they're going to have to deal with some of the talents and some of the hungry ones who have a dedicated fan base as well. Because, you know, let's just say Benny the Butcher, right? Since we're talking about him, you put him on that stage, his fan base is going to be ecstatic with that, and they're going to watch. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if that is a small fan base in regard to maybe some of the larger ones, it'll still look like a step forward, you know what I'm saying, for a stage like that. And you get about 5 or 6 of those in conjunction with the mainstream artists that will come in there. I think that's how you kind of build that up. Because if we think about BET in the 90s, there was a whole lot of people that was getting airplay that weren't stars and weren't making big radio records.
it's more pure than Mike.
I think we're at the
Lyricism kind of
stage.
still mattered at that point. That the culture wasn't that where that mattered. It doesn't matter about that no more. You know,
how do we make that matter again? How do we make that matter where a J Rue Damager can go out there and get some light? Because he wasn't marketable at all in the 90s, and he still got play.
But this goes back to me saying hip-hop is always a reflection of what the younger people are listening to. Are the younger people in masses listen to Benny the Butcher? No, they're listening to NBA Youngboy. They're listening to, you know,
he needs to be on that stage too.
Lil Durk, you know what I'm saying? That's when I hear these jits, that's what they listening to. They listening to Ace and, you know, whatever drill rappers, and that's what they listening to out here. So
could that not be a mixture of all those things? Could we not have Benny on that stage, NBA Youngboy on that stage, Durk on that stage, GloRilla and Megan and all those things? Because if we talk about the BET Hip Hop Awards, hip hop is all of those things. It's the guy who sold 100 records and the guy who sold 1,000,000 records. You know what I mean?
Well, there's always been a balance, and all of this matters. I feel like all of this has always mattered in hip hop, and it needs to be there because you have the roots and people that stay within those roots, within what the true fundamentals of hip hop are. And then you have the ones that are, you know, they're mainstream, they're pop. You know, they are bigger than the hip hop culture, where now is the money, and some of that money has driven certain artists I was once looked at being in that box is now being, you know, beyond that, which is like a Kanye, which with Kanye we even go further on to say that he used the underground, he used those rappers. He wasn't really like that. But we know, like, we see what that transition was, right? So it's like I hate to use this analogy, but I'm saying this. We hear a bunch of people talking about like the WNBA, and the WNBA should be bigger, and we represent this. Well, we have a bunch of women here, right? And we look at the WNBA, and it's doing bigger in numbers and everything, but it's like, why isn't the bulk of that demographic that it appeals to supporting that much? And that's what I would like to say about underground hip hop. If you want underground hip hop to be that, we need the masses of people that believe in that to really support that and push that to the forefront. If the numbers show, Mike, you know,
what does that look like though? I guess in my, because this is where when you talk about the numbers, and you're right, the numbers do show a certain thing. Radio and all of the, you know, from the people that I've talked to and whatnot, radio really throws a lot of those numbers off, because radio and the way that it's able to, I don't want to say manipulate, but dictate streaming numbers is massive, because streaming numbers are based on that reach. So like if you and I do a station head right now, we get like 500 something people in the group, and we play a record on station head, then that's 500 streams for that record. Imagine what that's like for a radio record, right? And if these streams are being quantified by reach to a certain extent, and this radio station is playing this record 25 times a day, the person who's not on radio and is just basically relying off of the organic, real streams of their fan base is not going to be able to compete. And on top of that, you're getting the notoriety from that radio play, where you're getting the ears of the people who still listen, and you're still getting those plays from those people too. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's really hard to quantify, you know what I'm saying, like how many people really are supporting, I don't want to say underground hip hop, but like some of that core hip hop. People like MF Doom, who never went platinum, to my knowledge, or possibly even gold, was huge out here, legendary out here. And like your impact, that has to account for something too. And it's hard to quantify. And those are the building blocks that hip hop originally was built on. We don't know how many times platinum paid in full was in the streets. We don't know.
Yeah, and this is what I would like to say too, Mike. Like, if we had people in the masses out supporting, like, just say one of your underground artists to the masses, and the industry cats will see that, guess who they're pushing next? That wave. You know what I'm saying? It's like that support means something. We got a bunch of people who complain about what's not hot and what is currently there, but what is the support as loud as the complaints? And that's what I always say. And this applies to every industry.
Yeah.
Think about podcasts and think about even what we do on here, right, Mike? We could easily get on here and we know what will draw people. We know what is the bulk of what draws people on the internet as far as rhetoric and narratives to paint. And we know we can go there, but we stay where we are and we keep it. There's no reward to being purist in whatever art form it is. It's not.
I mean, but chances got to be taken or things get stale. But you're right. I mean, it's like if we put, and like you said, we're all to blame here. If we put certain names in the title, it's not going to get the ratings that if we put other names in here. What's good, Super Duper? Yeah, we put Jay-Z name in here and the chat's going to go crazy. Or, you know, as soon as we go live, the numbers are going to go crazy. But we put, you know what I'm saying, like MC Search or something. I just saw that in the chat. That's why I just said that name. MC Search or something. It's not going to do those numbers. You know what I'm saying? And I think everybody thinks about bottom line, and the underground or the I guess the core hip hop MC kind of suffers the bulk of all of this, because how do I come up? How do I get talked about? Who's going to reach out to me? Because everybody's kind of reaching for numbers.
Man, it's all about
vicious
it's always about like the support at the end of the day. Like, is a level of support. Like I take it from like say like an up and coming rapper, and some of them will complain about support, but that shit goes a long way. If you have over 1,000 something friends, and if all of them just shared something that you're doing, what does that grow to? It grows to whoever's following them or whatever, and they must say, okay, I'll take this person's word for it. Let me go check out what they're saying. It's like stuff grows like that. But we see in the entertainment industry solely set sells, controversy sells, and that's been the method for a long time. So it gets no different when we're talking about music. It gets no different when we're talking about entertainment. Like, let's think about what the idea of what black television is. Black television right now shows like baddies. You feel me? Like, if you ask these young teenagers what they're watching, that's what they're watching, bro. They're watching stuff like baddies. They're watching, that's where the culture is right now. You know, like
I got some ideas, and I think some things can fundamentally be changed and moved in a progressive way. But you know, we're definitely going to get to that. But yeah, it's a wide open lane for sure.
It's always a balance, man. And I feel like
but it's all entertainment, though. You still
even trash TV is needed. I used to stay up late and watch Howard Stern sometime, or I used to watch Jerry Springer's. That I'm entertained by that. I'm uncut. I think there's a need for everything: the trashy stuff, the good stuff, the comedy. There's a need for all of it. When that balance, that pendulum is swung, and it's like, it's kind of like, where are we at? You know, and I think we just have to get back to having a balance with everything.
I agree. Did you hear that Shay Noir and Rapsody song?
I actually did check it out, and I like Rapsody's verse.
I actually like Shay's verse, and I'm of the mindset, and again, I'm not a huge Rapsody fan. I respect where she comes from with it and her quality of music because she's very consistent with her music. I think Shay's a better MC than her.
I don't know. I kind of like how Rapsody attacked that. And then actually, I kind of like how she's kind of calling out, you know, some female MCs as well. I mean, I don't think nobody's paying attention to it. You know, you got some people that want to play nice and we're the girlies, and then there's ones that they don't like the other side. Right. But I like her opening that competition and sticking her neck out like, hey, none of y'all, you know, spit like this kind of. I like the bravado in that verse, you know.
Right. And you got to do that when you're on the track with Shay. I think Shay Noir is, you know, over the past couple of years, she's really put in the work, and she really has been holding it down as an MC, not just as a female MC, but just period, dropping like multiple projects a year, and she just kind of has that whole grit. I know she's from Buffalo, but she has like that Philly type of grit. I love Philly MCs.
I do too.
You know, and Philly MCs, they kind of come from an approach where it's like they make you feel what they're saying. They put that soul and that, you know what I'm saying, that grit into their voice. And I like that about Shay. I think she comes from that place and comes from that dimension. I know we were talking about GloRilla's album last week, and the numbers came in, and GloRilla did really well. That's your girl, man. I'm not totally sold on Glo like that. And it's crazy because I'm
I like it, man.
Fan. I want you to speak to it.
All right, so she's the highest selling female rapper of this year. So she topped Meg. Meg was number 1 at that for this year. So far, the lowest on that list is JT. So I actually have the actual numbers of those first week sales for all of them. Actually, I've listened to all of their albums, and I think Glo deserved it. I think it went the way it was supposed to. So prior to GloRilla dropping and getting at 69, Meg had 64, Lotto 29, Ice Spice 28, Sexy Red 27, JT 26K. So like GloRilla's leading that. The album is solid album to me. She dominated this year, you know. I don't know what other female rapper is gonna drop this year. But right now, Glo got it, man. Glo got it. I have no argument in that there, you know.
These numbers, though, I do agree with LP. These numbers are low altogether. I mean, you know,
this is a new standard, man.
Year. But again, are people losing interest in hip hop right now? Like, it's
sounds the same, man. And then the internet is now the source of where people get their music, and it's been like that for a long time. But it's like this is why I go back to the question. I compare it to the WNBA. People talking about women rap being in the forefront. What is being supported most? And this is a reflection of the support. And even if we don't like it as men, where's the support for these albums that have the bigger, because we know who mainly supports albums and buy albums is women. So why isn't these numbers where they're supposed to be?
Well, it's kind of like what you said with the WNBA, man. Like, I mean,
Exactly.
you would think, naturally that women would gravitate to, women playing basketball, but the numbers show you that women like to see men playing basketball more than women playing basketball. That's probably the same thing with their rappers. Now, that might be a different notion when it comes to singers and R&B. I think women might gravitate more towards women singers and support them more than they do male singers. But when it comes to the rapping stuff, I mean, whether they want to admit it or not, the numbers kind of lean towards the fact that both men and women probably prefer male rappers.
For the sake of me being just a hip hop consumer, I'll go listen to the female rap, the popular female
me too,
rap,
for
and
sure.
see what stuff sound like. And if it's dope, I'm not afraid to listen to it. Am I going to be bumping it with my windows down, trying to get the attention of others? No, but like, am I going to take a look at? Am I going to take a listen to it? Yeah, and I heard all these albums this year, and Glow, she got it because I could see not only the women listen to it, I see the guys listening to it.
Yeah, and it's no real, and I don't know if it's just a sign of the times or changing of the times. There's no stigma on a dude listening to a female rapper. Like back in the day, I mean, we gave Kim her respect. Same thing with Foxy, and that was probably the closest you could get to a dude bumping some female rap shit, and that's usually when they're on tracks with guys. But yeah, you're not gonna be riding around the street bumping like Lil' Kim. How many licks and all that stuff.
Yeah, man. And it's just I think this also goes into how the attention span of the listeners are. Our listeners actually listening to albums, or they playing that catchy song over and over again, of what they hear of TikTok on your IG and stuff like that. Are people really listening to albums now? Because that's a question more than anything. Are these albums actually being listened to fully? And I think one of the crazy things that I find in hip hop, even with me, and I have a good attention span for music, but these artists' albums are too long now. I'm not gonna lie, and
they are
for them to be that long. Like if you give me a long album of dope shit, like if you give me Get Rich or Die Trying, which I don't think no artist is gonna do in this era, but if you give me a Get Rich or Die Trying, I'm listening to the whole Get Rich or Die Trying.
That's why I feel like in 2018, Kanye West was onto something with these 7-song EPs, if you will, or albums. Like an album now in this era is supposed to be like Pusha T's Daytona. And I know y'all get sick of me talking about Daytona, but if you talk about an album that is just long enough for you to really get into and play over and over, 7-8 songs is about right, because you know what, that limits your margin of error, so the quality's there, right? And it also gives you the ability to say, you know what, I can get through this. It doesn't feel intimidating because we got so much music in front of us now. We got so many projects. If you sit there and see an album that came out Friday or whatever, and it's got 20 songs on there, 18 songs, you're like, man, I'll listen to this later. You know what I'm saying? But no, I mean, even starting it though, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna get to this later. I got a lot to do. But if you see an album that got 7, 8, maybe 9 songs, you're like, oh, let me go listen to this real quick. And then the real quick turns into this album pulled me in. You know what I mean? And I think that's just where we're at now, because back in the CD era, yeah, you would go in a store and you would look on the back of an album and say, look, is $14.99 worth 9 songs? Nah, let me go get the album that got 18 songs. That's not the mentality anymore. The mentality now is like, yo, how many songs is this for me to get through? And so, yeah, if you got 8 or 9 there, you feel like the quality is going to be there. And if it's not, you have enough time to say, you know what, I ain't fucking with this album.
I
But
say it's all based off how just dope the material is. Because if it's a long
yeah,
album, all that shit's bumping, I'll listen to it. But
right.
that's the thing, the quality is not there. And then the way music is consumed now is different with these younger cats. Like, I feel like they listen and they skim through it to try to catch something that has lines or whatever, just like for a picture or a caption or something for IG, like, or just for a picture or video they want to post or a story. Like, I don't even know how they even really consume and digest the music anymore and sit with it because it's so trendy. It's like they're gonna run to whatever the internet's telling them what is the hot song. It kind of reminds me of the $1 Million Baby song.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of blew up overnight.
I'm glad you brought that up because I actually was thinking about that, and I didn't think we were going to get to that today. But what do you think about the fact that the artist behind the $1 Million Baby song said that he's not a hip hop artist, and then he got nominated for 2 rap Grammys for this album? I mean, not album, for this song, and now he's saying, "Well, what I meant was hip hop's not all I do."
Yeah, well,
This song we nominated for 2 rap Grammys.
This is another chance when I say Grammy's got it wrong. That's not a hip hop record, but I don't like him backtracking, you know, and it makes me wonder the sequence of when he backtracked. Did he backtrack once he learned he got the Grammy nominations, or
yeah?
Okay, well, that's whack. But I agree. I don't think that's a hip hop record. There's no rapping in that. That's like, I don't know what you consider that, but that's not a hip hop album. I mean, that's not a hip hop track. You know, I wouldn't put that in a. Yeah, that's not hip hop, bro. Like,
You're not rapping at all on here. You
yeah,
know,
so I'm not in disagreement with him. I just don't like you kind of using the culture and then kind of separating yourself from it until it's convenient for you. I don't like that. I've never liked that. You know,
yeah.
so but are we gonna really see this guy around after this? You know, and
Probably not, especially with statements like that. I mean, but it reminds me of what Post Malone did. And this is the problem I have. I think for certain people who can't break in their own culture and their own genres or whatnot, people who are non-black musicians, it's shock value to jump in hip hop first. Like MGK did it, you know what I'm saying? Post Malone did it with White Iverson, you know, and it's like, no, make it in your genre that you're trying to get to. Do that first. Because he went and broke with White Iverson. And when he got to that point, he said, you know what? I'm not hip hop. I'm going to do something totally different. Because XXL said that he didn't want to get on the freshman cover because he didn't want to be marketed as a hip hop artist. Now, he said that wasn't true, but based on his career and what has happened moving forward, I'm pretty sure that was true. You know what I mean? I don't know. This looks like a similar situation where it's like, you know what? Hip hop is a bottom feeder. It's especially for non-black artists, you can get in there on some shock value and make some noise. You'll cross over automatically. And then by the time you cross over, then you can go do whatever you wanted to do before.
I just think this is just a little bit different because this is not him rapping. This is not him actually ingraining himself in the hip hop culture. Yeah, it plays on the rhythms and the vibes of what we would like in black music, but it's not like Post Malone or
Post didn't rap on White Iverson either. That was more
he still was involved in enough hip hop projects, and we damn near have to blame hip hop for the acceptance of them too. But
I agree. But number one, no,
hip hop stuff to where you could say he used hip hop to boost his profile. We could say that. I don't think this guy has used hip hop to boost his profile too much because he just threw it out there and the internet did what they did with it, and he just writing off wherever he's getting love from. I don't think it's the same, but I do think when you know now that this is the demo, I love that stuff, and you try to denounce it and then you come back to it, I feel like, hey, bro, like that's when you suspect to me now. It was like, yeah, you're using this, like, and see it.
Who submitted this as a rap nominee though? it had to be him and his camp and his label, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to capitalize on the moment, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, you know, that's a hip hop
But this
beat.
is them missing the mark again. This is not hip hop. That's not hip hop. That's again with them being culturally clueless. This is a overnight record that got popular on over TikTok. I mean, that's a pop record. I mean,
I agree.
That's a pop record.
Everything about that record points to it being a pop record. Now, someone in the chat had a great point. Miley Cyrus has done the same things, but to your point, we allowed her to do these things.
Yeah, we accept it
like
with
Will May, you know, as great as he is, they embrace that, and they'll run to some of these artists to get their sauce and allow them to be quote unquote R&B artists or hip hop artists for the moment. And when Beyonce goes out there and does a country album and, you know, doesn't get the nominations for the Country Music Awards, I don't have a problem with what Dolly Parton said, you know. And I'm not trying to, you know, be controversial here, but she said, look, this is an artist that made one country album, whereas at this award show, you got people who spent their careers in country. We'll see if she makes another country album. I think that's fair.
But award shows are not based off how many years you've been in that genre. It's based on what's been hot for that year. And do she deserve awards? Hell yeah, she does.
Well, that's them protecting and gatekeeping their culture in ways that
that's what we missed the mark because we have policed our culture like that. So we are the only ones to blame for what we let, you know, infiltrate, you know.
Exactly. So if you're gonna try to pull a White Iverson or a $1 Million Baby, let's see you do this 2 or 3 times. Then maybe you can get a rap nomination award or something. LP with the super chat says, I think it's a thing you do when you were young, and they think they mature out of hip hop because they're not from the culture for real, for real. Andre didn't help with that. You know what? I keep seeing people bringing up Andre. And I do agree with that notion where many rappers have made it seem like hip hop is one of those things that you do when you're young. And then after that, you graduate to some other musical form. And yes, Andre kind of has been one of our biggest voices and one of our greatest artists to kind of echo those sentiments. And shout out to people like LL Cool J and Nas and Common and Q-Tip and all these guys who continue to make hip hop records well into their 50s. You know, I think it is disheartening for somebody like Andre to say that because of the credibility and the talent and the, you know, just what he means to hip hop altogether. But I do understand where he's coming from. He did make, I mean, when you look at his life and his career, hip hop was something he did when he was young. And he got a certain age, 25, he really stopped making it.
Multiple factors here, Mike. I think, yeah, that is a cop-out with him saying that. You know,
I agree.
It's him still acknowledging that hip-hop is a young man's game, because it is. It's, I mean, that's the fact of the matter. It's still a young man's game. But I don't
when you say it's a young man's game, and I want you to keep your thought, what do you mean when you say hip-hop is a young man's game? Because we hear that
mainstream hip hop has always been reflective of the young culture.
Okay.
It's always been synonymous with what the young culture, the slang, how they dress, everything. That energy has always been, that's literally how it was ushered in. It's like what the young folks is doing. What's society looking at like that? It's damn near synonymous. And it's about, it went from that age period has transitioned long. We wasn't really looking at the age of that in the beginning of it. It was more so the environment, the society of what it was. But now throughout the years, it became a young man's sport. You're not going to see it be celebrated to the extent of how we look at our legends. I mean, let's not act like these young acts always show love to the legends. We had it always in hip hop. It was legends that hated on the younger guys.
I've always said that. Now that I agree.
I hate how people like to act like, oh, hip hop was, they passed torch to the other one. No, the younger generation came into
the rappers in the 90s showed. I remember growing up in the 90s, and the rappers in the 90s, for the most part, never really collaborated with the elders from the 80s. The only one that really was getting a lot of love was Slick Rick. And I think that's because Slick Rick was just coming out. He got locked up or whatever. And obviously Slick Rick is an influence and they wanted to show Slick Rick love. But yeah, you didn't see a lot of the young guys really talking about the people that inspired them. They were just doing their thing. It was like the torch had already been passed. Like, you old, I'm on right now.
I mean, I'm just thinking about Jay-Z lines. He's going back at the older critics and, you know, they're talking about, you know, how his career is. Like, I just think about it, there's always been this tension between the younger and the older artists. Now, there's some older artists that will pull in and embrace the younger artists, you know, like an E40 or a Snoop, or, you know, there's certain artists. But then, you know, every year we get every other year we'll get a young hating, an older hating artist. I'll do an interview hating on younger rappers or what they see the game is in. It happens all the time. Let's not forget about what Ice-T did with Soulja Boy or whatever, and he could have been right, but it's just like it always comes off as the young, like the young artist being criticized what's older. Like, that's not what our principle is.
I got something to say to that. Let me get to these super chats. Brian with the super chat says albums are longer now because a lot of people will at least listen to an album all the way through one time, find a song they like. So if it's longer, that's going to be more sales for each full listen. I agree. I think that they're longer now because people are chasing streams. They're not making them longer because, you know, I had this much to say and this is what's going to make the album better. I think they're thinking about how many they got a greater chance to get streams with 18 songs. Yes. I'm of the mindset that if I got 9 banging songs, they're going to listen to this twice before they listen to all 18 of these. Now, I could be wrong. That's just how I think. And the album's going to be better. Brian with the super chat also says artists don't have an incentive to make a concise, high-quality album because they get more streaming money for putting extra throwaways on the album. That's true, too. And music suffers. I agree with that. The incentive is to put more trash on there. Like, stuff that wouldn't have made it onto your album, you could throw on the streaming platforms and, you're going to get more streams for it. So you can have stuff that was on the cutting room floor, throw that out there. Shit, that's more streams for me. Now, what I was going to say to your young energy point, and I do agree with that. I think that hip-hop is based on young energy, even if we talk about our veterans and the stuff that they're doing. We like when they channel. We like when they're honest about where they are currently, but we also love when they channel some of that young energy from their era, even the way they dress. We talk about our artists when they start dressing like the young folks. You know what I'm saying? So even with our older artists or more veteran type artists, we like for them to even tap into their young energy from when they were young. You know what I mean? So there is a point to that. And I do think from what you're talking about, when you have older artists, quote unquote, hating on the younger artists, the hating comes from the fact that what they're doing isn't like what we were doing. Once again, young energy pointed to again. They're looking at what the young people are doing now in correlation to what they were doing when they were young. And somehow what they were doing when they were young was better than what the guys are doing right now when they're young. And 10 years from now, the guys who are young right now are going to say the same thing about the guys who are young 10 years from now.
It existed in every era. When we're talking about the gangster rap era, there was artists saying, "Oh, you rapping about shooting and killing each other." It's like you get that. And then when it went to like the phase of crunk music, then you got people, "Oh, that's album, no, that's not hip hop." Then you have this auto tune, and then the Kanye stuff, and people wasn't really, Kanye had hip hop purists when he had those first 3 albums, but then when he started going kind of crazy and 808s and Heartbreak, let's think about people that wasn't saying that. There were people that were saying that wasn't hip hop.
Well, that's where the whole notion of the old Kanye even comes from, because they want him to tap into his quote unquote young energy. Like, I like the old Kanye instead of the new Kanye, and the old Kanye is, like you said, the more hip-hop purist, traditional based Kanye.
Think about it. People were even hating on Puff in the Shiny Suit era. You know what I'm
Of
saying?
course.
Like, let's not act like everything was always embraced in hip hop by the older generation. It wasn't. Some people looked at this as clownery to the culture and everything, but everything served its purpose. So, yeah, I mean, the way we may talk about this talent of today is the same way the talent of today may talk about what's after them. And it's a cycle. There's
Yeah.
only a handful of people that embrace and bring you into their world, and but it's not like the abundance of older hip hop heads was always embracing the young guys. But we're not going to sit here and say it's not a young man sport. Now, are the more quality artists older that are like holding it down? Yeah, because when you think about Kendrick, Cole, Drake, whatever, these guys are pushing 40. So yeah, but we still have, you know, the Lil Durks that's like around my age, you know, damn near what Lil Durk's probably what 32, not too far off
He
from
just
me.
turned 32, actually. He turned 32 like yesterday or something.
Exactly. And then we got NBA Youngboy, who's a little bit younger. He's like 23, 24.
He
And you
just
see
turned
how
25 yesterday.
25. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, and he kills in streaming, he kills in numbers,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's like,
Nobody does numbers like NBA Youngboy.
exactly, man. So it's like there's a generational gap with everything. I mean, there's artists that's always going to talk about, oh, it wasn't as good as this Beyond. It's like, oh, that wasn't like the Sugar Hill Gang. Then you gonna have ones, oh, that wasn't like Dre and Snoop, or is that the ones, oh, that wasn't like this. We're always gonna have a generation that's gonna feel like what they grew up on is better than what's out now. You know, it's
Somebody
just
said, see, this is how people have recent history, or what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, said Kanye, the new Kanye is self-absorbed. Nigga, the old Kanye was self-absorbed too. What are we talking about? You just liked his approach when he was self-absorbed.
And he's just a rebel with no cause now. You know, it's a rebel with no cause. You don't know what he gives a fuck about now, and what he chooses to pinpoint what he gives a fuck about is like, that's not problems we can now relate to, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Kanye hasn't changed. You're right. Kanye hasn't changed. His circumstances have changed.
Yeah.
Like, his whole approach and him just saying whatever he feels, none of that's changed. You just don't like where he stands now. Like, he was standing on more relatable ground decades ago. Now he's not on that. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, critique and gatekeeping is not hating. It's needed. Well, see, this is the thing. I agree with that, but you also have to understand, and Kool Herc said this, and it goes a long way. He said each era defines hip hop in their own way, and it's true. Like, each era has their definition of what this hip hop thing is. For Kool Herc in his era, hip hop was breaking, it was graffiti, it was park jams. You know what I'm saying? The MC getting the mic, yes, yes, y'all, and all that, and everybody having a good time. For an era after that, hip hop is something different. From an era after that, hip hop is something different. And I think that it's kind of dangerous when you have certain people who claim to be the authority on what exactly is hip hop and what isn't. Now, granted, you do have situations like this $1 Million Baby thing where, you got to gatekeep that, and you got to make sure those things are out the mix. But you also can't sit here and say everything that's kind of built on those elements of what hip hop is, but it just sounds different than what it sounded like 10, 20 years before. You can't sit there and say that's not hip hop.
You know what's crazy about this? We wouldn't be gatekeeping or saying we want to gatekeep against oh boy with the $1 Million Baby if he just embraced the culture, because again, we're so welcoming. You know, the stuff that we say.
I'm just gonna say that we're too
funny what we allow in and what we don't, bro. What we pick and choose is like we welcome everybody to the barbecue. Along if you show like you like us a little bit, we invite you to the cookout.
Well, this is the thing, man. Even with Timbaland and Justin Timberlake and the Nelly Furtado thing like that, man, it's like, Timbaland went all out for these Justin Timberlake projects, and maybe they work great together and all of that stuff, but he knows that Justin Timberlake's going to sell records, at least in that era. And I think Timbaland said it himself. He saved certain beats for certain artists, and he's going to give this person that he knows is going to sell a bunch of records his best stuff. Now, that's a personal choice, but what happens is in the grand scheme of things, now this person's a credible R&B artist that might not have been, organically on their own. And you made this happen. And no disrespect to Justin Timberlake, but I'm just saying that's an example.
Well, let's be fair.
Things happen moving
let's
forward.
be fair, Mike. Justin Timberlake was a star beforehand.
He was.
But he just was accepted more in Black culture with doing those
because
that. So
because of the Neptunes and Timberland. Without that,
he was already a star.
Yeah, he was already a superstar from NSYNC. But I will say this: the Neptunes and Pharrell specifically, he gave Justin Timberlake his solo identity. While when you look at the rest of those guys from the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, who were very successful, they were part of these successful groups. Individually, they weren't able to have their own individual solo identity. Pharrell gave Justin Timberlake his solo identity.
Yeah, I mean, we can give them the credit. I think Justified was his first album. I think
Justified was first. And Justified was, let's just keep it all the way funky. Justified was records that the Neptunes submitted to Michael Jackson that Michael Jackson never heard, and they told the Neptunes that Michael Jackson turned them down, so they gave them to Justin. So Justin received records that were supposed to be Michael Jackson's records. His solo identity from that.
JTA is good timing, man. But
of course,
like I said, man, if it's quality, it's quality. If they embrace the culture, you embrace the culture. If you really are influenced by our music and care about it, then that matters too. Like, we have people that have no care about the culture, have no background to, or even grew up on our shit that just gold
I think Justin had respect for it. Now, moving forward, you have somebody like a Miley Cyrus who hooks up with Mike Will May, and everybody stops what they're doing and gives her little hip hop fix because they want to sell some records. And then she just says, that was some rap stuff I was doing for the time. I'm going back to my roots. Now, that's the barbecue stuff. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like you're being too welcoming. At some point, somebody's going to have to say, nah. But see, the messed up part about this is, and why I bring up Justin Timberlake, when the Neptunes stopped working with Justin because of how Jive was doing the clips, they were like, look, we got love for Justin, but we're not going to help Jive to this magnitude until they do right by the clips. Timberland jumps in there and says, hey, I produced the whole album. That's the problem.
But here's the thing. I guess why I don't have much of a negative view on this, because I never looked at Justin as a user of the culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just I don't get that from him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like he always had an admiration. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
That's going back to his roots too, though, Siobhan.
Yeah, I feel like JT has always kind of had an admiration for Black music. I don't really see him as using this. He went from being a Disney kid to being in the boy band, and ultimately it seems like the music he wanted to do. And his profile was bigger when he was doing predominantly Black music, because he's put out some albums since then that didn't go over like how they usually do. But I don't see him as using the culture as pandering as much as people like to paint that new narrative of it being, because even when you listen to the albums, they were they were Timbaland produced, but besides the singles, the bulk of that album wasn't mainly just Black music sounding. They had some pop records still. Like, I used to listen to JT records, so it's like I feel like Justin Timberlake, and I don't think he I just don't see him as using the Black culture is like people like to form this new narrative of it being. I really think he was had a love for it.
That's cool. And I think the thing is, it's kind of like the Elvis thing, because somebody brought up Elvis in the chat. Justin Timberlake is not the talent that somebody like a Usher is or Chris Brown is. But because of the producers he was able to enlist, his catalog, some could say, rivals Usher's at least, or maybe better than Usher's. And that a lot of those records that were great records could have went to Usher or something like that. But they did, and again, can we sit here and say that, I mean, look, Elvis had a level of talent, right? But is Elvis Jackie Wilson? No. Is Elvis James Brown? Hold on 1 second. Why is my phone? Hey, I'm doing the show. Everything all right? I was talking.
Commercial break.
All right. All right. Yeah. Sorry for the commercial break. But yeah, I mean, look, Elvis has certain level of talent, but is Elvis Jackie Wilson? Is Elvis James Brown from a talent perspective, right? And then you look at Justin Timberlake vocally. Where does Justin land when we're talking about, these black male vocalists that could have gotten these records? Even when you look at Genuine, like he could have received some of these records that JT was able to receive. But I mean, again, that's kind of where it goes, though. Like, could you sit there and say, even though we like Justin Timberlake and he made some good music, from a vocal standpoint, where does he land? If we're talking about R&B, from a dancing standpoint and an entertaining and performing standpoint, where does he really land? If we're talking about if he's in that R&B category, right? Like, he's not the man. Chris Brown would dance him under the table. Omarion would dance him under the table. And we got to ask ourselves, how did he get these records?
I mean, he had the bodies of work. You got to think about
work. Why? Because he worked with the Neptunes and Timberland.
Mike, but somebody can give you a hit record, but you think about we hear all the time how certain people had songs that belong to others and it just didn't hit that much and this one hit. I think about a lot of these R&B artists and their bodies of work. Some of these artists throughout later in their careers, their bodies of work wasn't that great. We have to we put Usher up there because he gave us Confessions. You know what I'm saying? He gave us Confessions. And then before that, what was it, 8701 or 8702? I don't know.
I loved 8701. You remind me on there.
That was just as good. That doesn't get enough credit as it deserves, but that's there. But let's think about
personally like 8701, but Confessions is the better album, obviously.
Exactly.
But I personally
we got those. And then think about your favorite R&B artists and their albums and how we compare them and just say, were they as good? I think we take into who the artist is more so than the body of work. Because think about it. Genuine gave us good joints, but like I had the album that had Same OG on it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But like, and he had his hits, but when is the last time you listened to
100%?
Yeah.
That's my point though, Siobhan. Because we're looking at this body of work. Justin got his body of work because he was working with, Donja, Timbaland, Chad, and Pharrell, man. Like, the few times that some of our great artists were able to work with these individuals, they made great stuff. Now, let's just sit here and look at it like, let's just say we're looking at it from a talent show standpoint, and you putting these artists on the stage. You put Genuine on the stage, you put Cisco on the stage, and you put Justin on the stage. You say perform.
Yeah, we know.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what makes it look bad, though.
No, it doesn't. Well, now when you say it, because we're looking at these artists, whatever thing, like Genuine, we see what Genuine look like. I've seen Genuine perform live twice as of the last 2 years, and what I can say, he's not as. And Genuine used to be able to dance, And I'm not saying like Genuine has bad work because he had that album he dropped that had like those jeans and all that in there, and then they had the TGT. Like Genuine did hit a new resurgence of his stuff, but what I'm saying is like some of these R&B artists, they got a lot of stuff off just one dope album or some features, but their whole discography as a body of work is kind of like so-so. That's all I'm saying. Like,
well, I mean, I don't think that they got the support of creating those albums to the level that Justin had. You working with Scott
I can't say
Storch,
that,
the
man.
Neptunes, and Timbaland, like you can't fail. Like even when I saw on Justified, this was the Neptunes and Timbaland, basically. I was like, oh yeah, I'm all in. This can't be bad. You know what I'm saying? Like because
Yeah, but
even when
some of these artists had those runs too, where they had greatly produced albums. You know, like Trey Songz in '09. You know, let's think
great
about
album,
Neo and his beginning stuff, because Neo was even a great songwriter.
of
You
course.
know, and Neo has joints, but you're not going to get the same R. Kelly effect. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Out of some of these
that's a
R&B
whole
artists.
different
And
lane.
that's different. So I think like some of these R&B artists, they produce some hits and they come and go, but the bodies of work doesn't sustain over time. Like Miguel and what was the other
Whoa,
person?
whoa, 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 whoa! You're saying Miguel's body of work doesn't stand up?
What is the
Miguel
last? No,
fire.
what is the last newest Miguel record? Have you heard that gives you that?
What you mean? The last one he put out. Now he does need to make something more recent, but the one he put out in 2018 when he had Travis on it, like that shit's hard, man. Like now, Miguel to me
Nah,
is
it's not
currently
kidding me,
the
man.
king of R&B. Did you listen to the October London album?
I love October London. Yes, I love October London stuff, and he's a great live performer too.
Lord with the super chat says Justin used us too. Tell him, Mike. Justin did use us. It is what it is. Yeah, Miguel's the truth, man. So, are
No,
you think?
but he doesn't even do R&B no more like that.
What do you mean? He don't. He hadn't made
Yeah,
anything.
I've seen him at Lovers and Friends. He's out there with the guitar. He's on some rock stuff, hanging from like piercings in the back and stuff. He's not in that R&B bag no more, man.
I think he can get in that R&B bag whenever he needs to, kind of like what Prince was doing.
How many
Yeah,
drinks?
War and Leisure was 2017. Yeah, Skywalker was hard. Banana Clip was
I like
hard. Pineapple Skies was hard.
I'm not saying he's not dope. What I'm saying is like the consistency, bro. They drop this stuff and these R&B artists just disappeared. Like even like we talk about hip hop being dominated by women this year, R&B is kind of damn near being dominated by women too. When the most popular are, you know, SZA's, rightfully SZA and Summer Walker and
No, I agree with that.
and you know, stuff like that. Like our male R&B artists are not really, you know, besides when Chris Brown dropped, we don't really have that. That's why people always be talking about R&B is dead, bro. Like we have certain artists like an October London, but I put October London, even though he's younger, I put him in the same bag as a Raheem Devon and those artists that are pure to it. They're great showmen, but they're not mainstream R&B was being pushed to the forefront. And that
It was hard for me listening to that October London album, to be honest with you, man. A lot of that stuff sounded so much like Marvin, and it was like, yeah, it's hard, man. It's like, and it's like even the background vocals, and it's you can't help who you sound like, you know, like your voice is your voice. Like people say, my voice sounds like Common or Ludacris or whatever, but you can't help those things, but you can help how you present it, and to go out there and say things and sing in a way that we know Marvin would sing. I think it's like, come on, you need your own sound. And there's a couple of songs on the album that sounded way different than the Marvin stuff, but I think that that's the lead in for him, at least the first 2 or 3 songs. I'm like, man, you know, the Marvin Gaye family don't play, man. They might sue this nigga for some of these, man.
You know, it's interesting because I looked at his interview with the Breakfast Club and he said he was a rapper and he produced his own stuff too. So it's like, I want to see what the other talents look like, you know, with him, because he is like in that Marvin bag. And I know he says everything that sound like Marvin and the last one was kind of themed that way, but it's kind of like, yeah, you do still kind of sound like Marvin. I get your point, Mike, but I think he's an amazing talent. I seen him live, and he sounds just as good live. So, you know, I like October London, and he's a Death Row artist too. So, that's even more dope. But
what do you think about Bruno Mars? Since we talked about people who think folks are vultures or whatnot, because I don't think Bruno Mars.
That's what I'm saying. Well, here's the thing, though. Bruno Mars didn't start off as R&B,
right?
You know, and he got in that R&B thing. It's like damn near how, like, I think about The Weeknd is like that bag I put Bruno Mars in. And I like the Silk Sonic joint. That shit sounds like it was
Incredible.
classic. It gave me old school vibes. I love it. Was a short album, but that was a good album. But it's like you know, I think every once in a while people just tap into their roots and then they go outside of that. Like even Usher, he named the album Coming Home. That's not a purely R&B album. Now there's some joints on that album that I like, but when I thought he named it Coming Home, I thought we was gonna get like another like Confessions type joint. That wasn't what the album was to me for Usher. So it's like it's not anymore like just pure R&B no more, from at least from the male artists. There's some that goes under the cracks and are bubbling, and you can hear them on Sirius FM and stuff like that, kind of got things, you know, going. But you know, R&B is in it. You know what? I think R&B is in a state that it's in because you don't have any more artists doing what Justin or what some of these other artists of us are doing, locking in with that producer that's structuring songs, giving them good quality written songs, and they're doing it. Like now you have R&B artists getting in the booth like rappers.
You're right.
They're producing the same energy as what a rapper would give us.
Now, what I like about Bruno and where I'll give Bruno points, and when it comes to like all artists, but he has the talent, like, and you can see that. Like he can legit sing, he can legit perform. He can bring, when you hear a Bruno record, you know when he puts that record on the stage, he's gonna bring that record out even more. And so when you have somebody with talent to that magnitude, it's like, okay, that person can go. You know what I mean? Same thing with Chris Brown. It's like the talent is just there and it's undeniable. And those are the things that I think pushes someone forward. Now, if you talk about somebody like The Dream, Neo, I'm talking more so about their writing talent. We're talking about performance, and that's why I never really, and I could be wrong, bless you. That's why I never really got into Frank Ocean. Like I didn't see the talent like everybody else did.
I mean, Channel Orange was that, you know.
Channel Orange was big. I never got into it though, because I guess he never really overwhelmed me talent-wise. And you know, some of the stuff he was talking about, I just couldn't really get into. But I think Her is very talented as well. Like, you know, like people like that, they're like, I'm like, yo, that's a talent. And I think when you have somebody who is a talent, then, you know, great songs will come. I think Adele's a talent. I always have, you know. We were talking about Jennifer Hudson and the fact that, you know, she has a strong voice, but she doesn't really have any of her own songs that people really just run to. I think Spotlight, written by Neo, probably her biggest original song, right? Or most notable original
but
song.
she falls into being victim of being so soulful that she's a performer that you would like to see. It's like Fantasia. When you go to, if you see Fantasia in concert, you'd be like, damn, Fantasia actually has some joints. But you never hear Fantasia in a woman's R&B conversation. And she's a great performer. She has the voice, but you never hear her being put in that category as a women R&B artist. I feel like those type of artists, they kind of get put in this box, you know?
I think Fantasia can sing, but I don't think she has a beautiful voice. You know what I mean? And
Mike,
I think for some people, her voice doesn't, it's not like, oh, that's a nice voice, but it's more of like she can sing. I feel like that about Christina Aguilera. Like she doesn't have a, like Kelly Price has a beautiful voice and can sing, right? I don't feel like Christina Aguilera or Fantasia or shoot, even Jennifer Hudson for that matter has a beautiful voice. And I like Fantasia. I'm not saying I don't like Fantasia.
We can't do that to Fantasia, man. We can't. Because like I see people do that to Anthony Hamilton, and I'll always defend Anthony Hamilton. You know what I'm saying? Because people try to do that to him too. It's like, oh, it's like this sound with like Anthony Hamilton. If you see him in concert, the man is amazing to see. It's just like we just don't put them in the R&B category. It's more so of a soulful thing. Like Fantasia will still get up on that stage and give a show today. That is amazing. More better than what the hottest female R&B artists are doing right now. I've seen Summer Walker and Money Long in them, and I've seen, you know, Summer Walker has gotten better in the performance, but for the most part, she's stationary. Like I seen Fantasia get up there, damn near sweat her hair out, be in the crowd, dance, rock out with the guitars, like, and singing at top level. She's putting on a show. I seen her on the show with Maxwell. She damn near stole the show.
Maxwell's a great performer too. I do like Patti LaBelle, y'all, in the chat. And you know what? I just had an argument with my dad about Patti LaBelle versus Aretha Franklin. He thinks Patti LaBelle is a better singer than Aretha Franklin, and I think that's crazy. So, but I like Patti LaBelle. Yes. Do you think that John Legend is an R&B singer? And we can get out of here in a minute. I mean, I know we're running over, but
we had a couple things we should have addressed too. But yeah,
we'll get to it.
But what was it? John Legend? You know what?
John Legend an R&B singer.
No, John. Yes, I think he was at one time, because when John Legend first came out and he had that "Remember I Used to Love You," like that was my joint with Kanye and on him in the video. Like he came out like that. I feel like John Legend was a victim, and it's the same thing when Alicia Keys out say. You make such a great song and you try to duplicate that and you fall victim to all your songs starting to sound alike. I felt like with John Legend,
Ordinary People. I mean.
Yeah, everything started to sound like Ordinary People. And I remember listening to John Legend, it was green light. It was like he had joints, but I feel like when
somebody said Alicia's voice gave out. Bad.
It did go out, but you know, Alicia, she made that what was the joint? This Girl Is on Fire. Now every record like everything starts sounding like that from that point. So I just think like they both got painted into that thing where they came with this monstrous hit of a record, and now everything tried to be duplicated of that, and they're just victim of the same sound.
Somebody said John Legend makes music for white people's weddings. I like, you know what?
Period.
I like I like his second album a lot. You know, I think Once Again was a very dope album. It's actually one of my favorite R&B albums of that era.
I have R&B albums that's my favorite that a lot of people don't even give credit to, and they deserve. And that's like Life Jennings. He has a dope first debut album.
You know what I liked from Music Soul Child? That Soul Star album. I love that album.
That wasn't my favorite one from him, though.
Yeah. Yeah, man. R&B, there's a lane wide open for R&B. Honestly, I think R&B had, from a creative standpoint, I think R&B has more of an opportunity to knock things out the box than hip hop does right now.
Yeah, because you can't put age limits on like R&B. Like every R&B artist can hit a new resurgence of creativity where nobody's, oh man, that's the old singer. They could do that to a rapper. Oh man, he's 50-something years old. You don't do that. How many times has the Isley Brothers came back and collaborated with R. Kelly and made stuff, you know, contagious? They were like, come on, man. Like those are artists that was on the radio. They were playing Contagious on the radio. They were playing Busted on the radio. Like we see R&B is always going to stand the test of time as long as you can sing and make good music. Hip hop, sometimes we put our artists at a certain age level or certain look or certain content level that like we cap our own artists out, you know.
They call John Legend a lounge singer.
I just seen that.
It's funny, man, because when I see John Legend featured on a song, a DJ Khaled song normally, it's like he sounds just like I know he's about to sound when I hear the song.
Oh my God.
It's the same notes. And I love you, John. Y'all want to talk about new Kanye, old Kanye? Bring back the old John Legend, if we're being honest.
Man, like
all right, before we get out of here, what did we miss? I know you said it was
I mean, this is gonna be kind of loaded, but there was an interview. It made it to print, Bazaar magazine. If I'm saying that right, because I'm not too hip to this magazine. I'm not.
Yeah, you said it right.
But he's doing there was a print piece for Kendrick, and SZA sat down and interviewed Kendrick, and I thought that was a pretty dope interview. She actually asked him the question about what he meant by "not like us," and he explained it pretty much how I interpret it of being. But it was a good read, him addressing some things in there, and people should check it out. That was a good print interview.
I need to actually read that because I'm confused with what "not like us" means because he's never explained it. And I'm glad that Kendrick's actually sitting down doing interviews and explaining some things that he normally doesn't. So
yeah, but if you really listen to the bars and some of his joints, like he kind of alluded to some of this around before, Not Like Us, like when he did Meet the Grams, or he did when he was speaking to the moral, the character of him and what he stands for versus Drake. I feel like it was there beforehand. I feel like Not Like Us was just like the icing on the cake of whatever. So I feel like he did speak to it musically, but to hear him say what he means by that on there, I guess that was a little plus. But I find it dope that he is actually sitting down doing an interview, and none other than old label mate SZA doing
I
that
love
interview.
it. I think that's great. All right.
I wish it could come out.
What I was gonna say was Big Meech is on house arrest, and he's been released from prison. Everybody in hip hop is going crazy. What does this mean for hip hop? Does it mean anything for hip hop? And why is this even in the hip hop news?
Well, first of all, it's big. The amount of time that Meech spent inside is crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's a lifetime he spent in there, just about. But people are, I could see you celebrate and you could be happy for Meech being out, but people act like Meech is gonna get out and get right back to where he picked up off, like get back to where he left off of. Like, nah, man, this man he's pretty much older. We glad that he's home, he's cool and everything, and that's cool. But it's like people act like he gonna get right back to the streets and you know all that. Like, nah, bro. Like, I get it. It's a celebration for the culture, I guess. You know, that's what's up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see him getting in the music game anymore. I probably wouldn't. Again,
I mean, there's a place for it. I mean, he was transitioning and trying to go legit. Like, it's not too far away. I mean, they just act like he's gonna get back to being in the streets and doing that. Like, nah, man. Like, he's out. I mean, Meech has always had a relation to the hip hop game. You know, as far as like where he placed himself in rooms on and when he was transitioning to that music side of it. So him being kind of synonymous with hip hop culture doesn't sound far off, but it's like, he's older, man. I don't know what people want out of him. He's free, dog. Like, this man.
Yeah, let him live his life at this point. You know?
Yeah, man.
You know, like, I know he's probably getting
mad at people celebrating
and Art of Dialogue, and these guys probably want to do interviews with him, but nah.
Yeah. You know, Vlad's probably ready to pay top dollar to speak to Meech. It's not like he hasn't interviewed Meech before. He interviewed Meech when he was in the inside.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's about it for this week's show, or might check in some other times. But yeah, any other music that we need to check out, make sure you email us at info@accordingtohiphop.com, and we'll make sure that we check out all those things. I got this segment that I, got coming up where I'm going to be reacting to some, independent artists' music too. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to be on the channel because, we do need to support, those artists that are, up and coming and emerging, because they clearly don't have any other spaces, it seems like, you know what I mean? So you got dope shit, make sure you hit us up with it too. And you want to lead the people with anything, Siobhan?
Yeah, man. I mean, I just be trying to keep up with everything that's going on. Hip hop is not the news cycle for hip hop is like recycled every week, and there was something that we didn't get to, and that's fine. But I just kind of feel like
what was that?
It was just Young Thug's tweet, to Future and Drake and them. Drake liked it, on some kumbaya, man. I make good music together, which they did, but it's like.
Well, see, Drake even put it out there in Family Matters that, him and Future really ain't got no problems. He's like, that's pretty much him and Metro. And, and Future kind of rode with it type thing. So even when he was going at everybody, he was already like, look, me and Future never really been through it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they'll piece it up, man.
Yeah.
That was a real beef. That'll happen. I can see that coming right down the line. So there's not much to talk about. But yeah, it's like it's a tweet. Drake liked it. We'll see what comes from that. But other than anything else, man, nah, man, I'm just trying to keep up with what's going on. It's not much, man. It was a hard year for hip hop, a hard year for pop culture, period.
Yeah.
So hopefully next year, we're getting towards the end of the year. So hopefully next year we got a lot to talk about. Appreciate all the supporters.
We're talking R&B.
Yeah, right. I hope y'all like and subscribe, man. Keep it coming, man. The support is very much so appreciated, and that's y'all, man. Thank you.
All right, everybody have a great night. Hit like and subscribe. And you know what I'm saying? We will holler at y'all in a few.
Yep.